What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Clemson Tiger Wire. We are so glad that you are joining us today. Welcome back for another episode. Today's gonna be a really good episode. It's a special episode. We got some more special guests we'll introduce in a second. But before we jump into that, just a reminder: make sure you're following us and join us over on social media. We've got TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, or X, whatever you want to call it. We got all those things. Go follow us over there. Each one of those have different content, different kind of stuff. So we'd love for you to join us over on there. And also a review goes a long way. So drop us a review, 5 stars, write a review, anything like that. That'd be huge for us. But anyway, we're going to jump in. Today's going to be a fun episode. This is our break from our normal episode focused solely on Clemson. Instead, we're going to go through and we're going to update where we were at from our last episode when we had Michael and Anthony, or the first episode when we had Michael and Anthony join us talking about our ACC predictions. We're now going to do a midseason check-in and talk about where we're at. So without further ado, let's welcome them to the stage. Michael, Anthony, how are you, fellas?
We're back.
We are.
We're
Thanks
back.
for having us back.
Oh, yeah.
Part 2.
Part 2. This definitely perfectly up in on. So y'all are Tiger Wire alums by now.
Alum. Yeah.
Right, experienced veterans. But hey, so far, Michael, this question goes to you. So far, what's your thoughts on ACC? Are they worth the hype? Is the ACC it?
The whole conference?
The whole conference.
I like the ACC. I'm a pro optimist ACC guy. I think it's better than it was last year. I think the worst teams in the league are not as bad as the worst teams in the league last year. I think there are more tournament teams in here than people think, and I think if the conference schools got a chance to be in the tournament, they'd win some games. I don't think a lot of them will get that chance, but I think they're deserving of it.
I like it. I'm the opposite. I think we should disband the ACC.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. Anthony, going to you. What's been your biggest surprise of the ACC this year? Biggest surprise?
I would say, I don't know. That's a tough one. Obviously, Florida State. Nobody was expecting them to be as high as they are right now. But back to what Michael said, though, I agree. Overall, it's been a good year. It's been competitive games, and I like where the ACC's at right now.
Yeah, I think it's in a good spot. I think it's in a real good spot. So we're going to jump in to this episode. So if you joined with us last time, we made our predictions and our rankings for where we ranked the ACC schools at and where we thought they would finish. And so we kept track of all them. We actually made a little bit of a game out of it. And so what we did is if we got the correct spot, you get 3 points. If you got the spot 1 off, you got 2 points. And if you got the spot 2 off, you got 1 point. Anything else, you didn't get anything. We didn't take any points away, even though there's a couple of us that we probably could have. I might be looking at myself in Wake Forest, but that's a different story. But no, it's going to be fun. What we did, we're going to pop that up on the screen for you to see. That right now, this is the score as of where we are right now. But then we will update this as the season goes on. So as of right now, Michael is leading the way, 22 points. He's out there. But not over.
One ahead.
I'll say not over. I'm right there with you with 21, and Anthony's not far behind at all with 16. That could change drastically. You know, a team could get hot and move up. Clemson right now is we're in 7th place in the ACC. That could easily move up. So there's a lot of teams.
That would help all of us.
Oh yeah, for sure. So, what's y'all's thoughts on this so far? Where we're at right now?
I think we did all right. I think other than the big surprises, I mean, Florida State, nobody would have picked them to be 5 at this point in the year. Miami, we overrated. I guess that their surprise at 9, and then Clemson's at 7 right now. I think that could move up, but they're not going to move up to like 3 or 2 probably. I don't even know if that's mathematically possible. But then, yeah, other than that, I mean, we're hovering right around everybody else. So,
yeah,
I think we did okay.
if you look over on the side, if you're looking at this chart, the colors that's our average between our 3 picks. Yellow is we were 1 or 2 off. Red is we did pretty bad, and green is we had it on the money. So honestly, you even
Only
out those
3
green
red?
and reds. Yeah, the green and reds cancel each other out. We did great. That's a passing grade for sure.
Yeah.
So I think this episode would be cool. We're just going to go through and let's just talk about these teams. I'm going to get this off the board. I'll pull that up and give you the rankings afterwards. So let's just go through these teams, talk about the ACC, where they're at right now, where they're going. Let's kick it off with who we all had at our consensus number 15. Let's start with Louisville. What's our opinions on Louisville right now?
Just mediocre. Nothing to write home about. They're not that good, but like Michael said, though, I mean, there's definitely worse teams overall and better. The bottom is better than last year for sure. I don't know. They've had competitive games. They've been in it and they've had chances to win more than they have.
I mean, we're recording this right now on Tuesday night. They're actually leading Boston College by 1 point right now for whatever that's worth.
Hey, okay.
We'll see if that remains there.
Yeah, I think
the night goes on.
Honestly, it's just like they're probably just happy not to be in last. Honest to goodness, I think everybody expected them to finish in last, and they're in second to last. So it feels like Louisville has felt somewhat celebratory this year, even though they have 3 conference wins. It's a rough spot to be as a Louisville fan. But yeah, didn't they have one decent win?
Oh, they've had some
Miami,
crazy.
Florida State. They put 101 on Florida State.
That's what blows my mind. You think about this against Virginia. I know Virginia is a very defensive team, but against Virginia they scored 52 points. Yeah. And then against Florida State they scored 101.
So they beat Miami, Florida State, and Georgia Tech.
And then on conference they beat UMBC, Copen State, New Mexico State, and Bellarmine, and Pepperdine.
Those are like okay. Conference State. I'm pretty sure I don't even know that they're Division I. I don't think they're even eligible for the tournament, and a couple of those other ones. Bellarmine is a unique program. They had a decent team last year. I remember them, but yeah. But what can you say about Louisville?
Yeah.
I will say, watch it when they played NC State. I know one guy that gave us a fit was the Huntley Hatfield. He's a solid post guy for them, averaging 8 rebounds a game. So I don't know. Yeah. Like I said, they've been competitive. If you look at the majority of the ACC, they're within 10, or if not single digits. So
they didn't play Duke horribly either. Like we played them at their place, and I think we pulled away at the end. I can't remember the final score, but it wasn't like just a blowout. But yeah, I don't know.
I think they could rally to make it a little bit higher in this by the end. Just because they have talent, they're just not top talent.
Mm-hmm. You look at overall team stats, and they're in the bottom half of pretty much everything. Yeah. Rebounds, assists, field goal percentage. Yeah, they're down there in almost everything.
Worst defense, 12th worst offense. Not a winning formula.
That's how you win games, right there.
Yeah.
We all had Louisville at 15 in our pre-ACC season rankings. They're 14th, so they're outperforming us with those 3 wins. No, we'll move on. The next team is we all had 14. Anthony, you had these at 13. The real ranked is 15th. The Notre Dame Fighting Irish. How do we feel about them?
Really good defensive team, surprisingly. Second best defense in the ACC, and that other than Virginia, who is always going to win that category. But they just cannot score to save anything. I think I actually don't feel horrible about Notre Dame's future. I like a lot of their stuff their coaches said. But yeah, as far as this year goes, it's just they have the second best defense of the absolute worst offense. They by a fair margin on that offensive side too. So they're an interesting team though. You wouldn't expect a team with the second best defense to be in last place, but that just shows you they just cannot score.
Yeah. Points wise, they're dead last points.
Yeah.
That's
By a while, I think.
Pretty rough, yeah. Their field goal percentage is just as bad, also in last place.
Yep.
Turn the ball over a lot.
40%.
Yeah, that's winning formula. Yeah, so not real surprises there.
Turnovers a game.
3-point percentage also
13,
last.
almost 14 turnovers a game.
And yet, they're in last place. This was the team that they just had that big win. Y'all remember they had that big win against Virginia, and they
early.
moved up from 15th for me. They did 100%. They had me.
That's an interesting game, though, looking back, because those are the two statistically top defenses in the league, and Notre Dame just happened to be on offense that night.
Virginia gave up 76 points to Notre Dame that night. Virginia scored 54. So
that's crazy.
Yeah, it was
they hold Miami to 38.
Later in the year. Moving on. Perhaps our biggest one. This is our one that we got wrong the most. John and Michael, we had this team at 13. Anthony, you had them at 14. FSU, they're sitting 5th in the conference right now. What's going on with the Seminoles?
Anthony, you want to go first on this one?
Go ahead.
I don't know what's going on with the Seminoles. Yeah. They just show up to play every night. I statistically, you look at them, I'm not seeing any like they're a top 6 offensive team, not a great defensive team in the bottom half of the ACC there. But they've just been finding ways to win games, and they've played Duke actually plays them next, but they've played the top teams in the conference pretty well. I remember they almost pulled off an upset against North Carolina when they played, I believe, which is I don't know. It's an interesting, because if you were looking at the stats for Florida State, just like scrolling through them, not a lot to highlight here. Middle of the road field goal percentage, bad 3-point shooting team, bad free throw shooting team, bad rebounding team. They don't turn the ball over that much, but I don't know. They've just found ways to win. I can't put my thumb on why they're able to win as many games as they can.
I was even looking at their individual stats, and their top leading score is 20th.
Yeah.
I don't.
No real star. I don't know why.
They make it happen though.
That's their leading score. Also leads in rebounds, in assists, and in steals, and all of those aren't even super high numbers. It's that Jameer Watkins forward. They did have that. They started off the ACC schedule pretty strong. Won 5 in a row. Lost to Clemson at home.
Their schedule here,
and then they beat Syracuse again at Syracuse, which. Fun fact, Syracuse only has 2 home losses this year. One is to FSU, one's to Clemson. So I don't know what you can say about that.
But they also let Louisville score 101 points.
They did let Louisville score
101. I don't know. I could not tell you what's great about this FSU team.
They're in 5th.
Yeah.
Do we think this sticks around?
Probably not.
I don't know if they stay as high as they are, but I don't see them dropping to where we had them.
No. Yeah. They don't have the games to do that.
Around there.
Yeah, I think they'll finish middle of the road. What's the remaining of their schedule?
Yeah, I was going to read it out. They got Duke next, Boston College. You'd count that a win for them. Maybe, I don't know. Boston College got some good players. Then they play Clemson. That's probably L. NC State, we'll see on that one. They do have to play at FSU. Georgia Tech, probably win that game. Pitt, and then Miami. So, losable games, but you never know. A couple of those I would chalk up as wins. So they're not going to fall. I think they'll say top 10.
I like where Anthony, you said 8, right?
Yeah.
I think that's a fair spot for him.
Yeah. I think he'll stay top 10.
All right.
Good job from the staff.
They'll have the first game by in the ACC. I think they'll stay within that bubble.
What is it? The top 10 do that? Top 11?
I thought it was 8.
Is it top 8?
Then top 4 get 2 game by.
That's right. That's it.
Yeah.
But
this is Leonard Hamilton's first, I think, really decent year in a while. The FSU coach. He's been known as like a pretty dang good coach in the ACC, but he's slipped the past few years. So it could just be a coaching thing. Like they just have a
he's
better
great coach.
Yeah, so it's like they just have a better coach than probably 80%, 90% of the conference. So they're able to win a lot of games. But yeah, good for FSU.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Next up, we have a team, Georgia Tech. I had them at 12th. Michael had them at 9th. Anthony also had them at 12th. And right now they're sitting at 13th. Georgia Tech's been a fun team to watch this year.
Yeah.
They play really good and then they play really bad.
Highs and lows.
I don't know if I've ever seen a team recently play as much as they do to their opponents. I feel like this season they play a lot to their opponents, which is interesting to watch.
Mm-hmm. If they play decent competition, they're hitting like every 3. I mean, like against Duke, but Duke played them twice, and we beat them in Cameron. But even that game was like a battle. Like it was tough. They were hitting shots, like played smart. I like their coach, but then like you watch them play anyone other than the big schools, and they're awful. So it's just that's crazy. I don't know what to think about them. I figured after they beat Duke at home to start the year, they'd be like a middle of the pack ACC team. And I think they have the capability to. Like they've beaten all these good. They've beaten Duke, Carolina, and Clemson. Like
that Clemson game, that was one of the most mad games I've been all year. The Carolina game
double
was
OT, right?
It was. We won every. You look at timeout breaks, every single TV timeout. We were ahead at every TV timeout the entire game.
Yep.
And then they pushed it to double overtime, 193-90. Oh,
crazy shots.
Yeah, they were making their
clutch shots in that game
for sure.
The one stat that stands out for me for Georgia Tech is their rebounding. They're top 3 in rebounding, and then number 2 in offensive. They're getting 12 offensive boards per game. If you can do that, that's a lot of second chance points, even if you're not scoring.
It also means you're missing a lot, probably.
Sure.
Yeah. They killed Duke on the boards the first game we played. That's why they beat us, really. We tightened it up in the second one, but yeah.
Georgia Tech's not really moving. Last year they finished 13th in standings, and this year they're still 13th in the standings. So
worst really attendance, I believe, in the ACC. Yeah, last place.
I'm hoping I'm able to go down to the Clemson Georgia Tech game in Georgia Tech coming up in a few weeks. So
yeah,
it'll be interesting to go see that.
Average attendance of just under 5,000 fans.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That's hard. That's tough.
I think that they have a small arena, but I don't know if that's all it is.
Don't think so.
Nets, moving on to a team. I don't have a lot to say about this team. Maybe y'all will, but moving on to Boston College. They are 12th in the rankings right now. We had them about that. Me and Michael had them at 11th. Anthony had them at 10th. Y'all got any big thoughts on Boston College?
They're interesting because they play way better at home than they do on the road. Their best player is, I can't remember his first name, but he's Post. He's a big dude down that plays down low. But he
Quentin
averages
Post.
What is it?
Quentin Post.
Quentin, that's it. Couldn't remember his first name.
Post. Yeah.
But he averages a little over 17 points a game at home, but on the road, I think it's around 12 or less. So they play significantly better at home on the road, which is why they've been able to get some wins. But I don't think they travel really well at all.
Yeah, I've watched a couple of their games. We haven't NC State hasn't played them yet, but yeah, Quentin Post he's legit. I think he would be fine on a different team.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's not really much to say about Boston College. I mean, he's leading their scoring and rebounds. Yeah. I think I just saw, but yeah, I don't.
Good really passer.
Have much to say about him.
Yeah. Clemson played him. We won by 11 pretty comfortably that game. But Quentin Post did not play. He was out that game. So who knows what would happen.
Duke was able to really take him out of the game. He didn't make a field goal until late in the second half. All of his points were free throws, and he really only scored, I think, 4 of those. But yeah, he's a prime example of he just does not play on the road really well, which has really hurt them. Because I think they've got some decent players, including him, but to be higher than this. But you can't travel, you can't win.
I think Boston College, they'll probably end right about where they are. They'll probably end around that 12th spot. Last year they finished 9th in the ACC, I think, or 10th. They finished somewhere around there. But yeah, I think they'll finish about where they are right now. Moving on, we got next up. We have an interesting team again. We got Syracuse. This one we had right on the money. Michael and I had them at 10th. Anthony had 9th. So we average out to right about 10th, and they are at 10th right now. So, what's your thoughts on the Orange?
That might be changed as of now.
Yeah,
that's true. They just had a big win.
If I search it up now, they moved up like 3 spots. But we'll go with
We're
it.
going with this. We're going with it
as is.
Yeah, we had them right.
yeah, dead on. But
Syracuse is an interesting team. I watched them play Clemson recently, and it was weird not seeing them play the zone. I know we talked about that beforehand.
Yeah.
It's weird. It changes it.
Yeah, I mean it's just Syracuse has recruited like the same type of guy for so many years with Boeheim being there and played. They always recruited really big, long-armed dudes because they were the most effective at playing the zone. They recruited a lot of 3-point shooters, like Gerard and both of the Boeheim kids, who were just menaces to play against. I hated playing against them every time, but they look a lot different this year.
They're looking through the standings and stuff. They kind of remind me of Florida State a little bit, as they're not standouts. Like in the stats, they're like basically around 10 or so. But they've had some good wins. I know when NC State played them, they held us to shooting 35%. Pretty much everything else was evened out, but they beat us by 8. We were lazy against them going to Syracuse. Let's see.
Yeah, they lost to Carolina earlier in the year, 103-67, and then beat them tonight. Held them to under 80 points.
We were their last game. We played them on Saturday, and gosh, that game made me mad. 21. They forced 21 turnovers. We beat them. We shot 60% in the game. Field goal percentage, 60%. And then we also out-rebounded them by almost 20 rebounds. I think it was like 42-24 in rebounds. And we still only won by 9 points. They definitely forced the turnovers for sure.
Shot. Typically, the team who shoots the ball more has a higher chance of winning. In that game, they shot the ball 64 times. Clemson shot it 51 times. That's a crazy discrepancy between those two.
21 turnovers. But I will say
13 more shots.
You could tell God ordained that game. I thought it was really cool to see Joseph Girard come back to the Syracuse Orange. They go back to their home court and get his 2000th career point. I thought that was really cool. That's a cool storyline to follow. Any other final thoughts on Syracuse tonight?
Good win tonight, Syracuse. Great win. Great win.
North Carolina lose. So.
Picked up 2 more fans tonight, Syracuse.
Yeah. I don't think we play them again either. And we beat them by 20. So what a year Syracuse has had. Just do this every year.
Clemson goes to Syracuse on the 5th.
March 5th. Make a little run here.
Do we go back to Syracuse?
Or sorry, it's at Clemson. My bad. It's in the year. It's at Clemson.
Yeah. And I was like, we just left there. We got them twice.
Yeah.
But that'll be a good game. We'll see. They played. Hopefully, we can hold on to the ball more than 21 turnovers.
Speaking of that game, I did like Clemson's purple jerseys.
Oh, they're nice. I'm so mad we don't wear them more. We only wear them like 2 or 3 games a year. This year,
that's the first time I've seen it this year. So they were
this
cool.
year, yeah.
I think
there's a cool.
Needs a jersey update.
I was about to say the same thing. We've had the same one since like 06 season. 07.
It looks like it too. I don't know what it is about it. It looks like it.
There's a guy on Twitter I follow. He's awesome. He's got a pretty good following. His name's Austin. But every single time we win, he puts out a new jersey for the Clemson Tigers, a different kind of jersey inspiration. He's got some good ones. Every time we win. So
he's made a lot of jerseys.
Yeah, his name's Austin Pendergast. He's got some cool stuff. If you're not following him, go look up AP13. He's got some cool Jersey Creations. Little shout out for him right there. But yeah, so it'll be good. Moving forward, we'll get one more, then we're going to take a little break. Next up, we got Virginia Tech. This one, we were a little bit off the board on this one. I had them at 9, Michael 12, Anthony at 7, and they're ranked 11 right now. So, Michael, you were the closest by far. What are we thinking there? What do we think on the Virginia Tech Hokies?
Hokies. Don't disrespect them. Tech.
I can't say much. They beat us. So
yeah, I was gonna say Tech is a Duke actually won at Virginia Tech this year, which is a rarity. Duke has lost 5 of their last 6 games. Before this year, had lost 5 of their last 6 games in Blacksburg, and we handled them pretty well this year. They're another team with just like an epic home court advantage. Like, it is so hard to play in Blacksburg, especially if you don't get the crowd out of it so fast. One of the reasons Duke was able to win is because we just put it on them from the beginning, and they felt like they could never get back into it, which is just suffocating for an arena. But they're also a team who is really streaky shooting the ball. Like, I remember against Clemson, that one guy went for like 30-something points. Like, they have
three players and 20 plus points.
Yeah, they can have games like that where guys just hit a bunch of shots, and it's kind of just tough to win those games. But like, I think what's interesting about them, like, I would say teams below them are better than them, like better teams, but they just have nights where they just hit a bunch of shots and you can't beat them. So they're just one of those teams, but that doesn't hold up consistently over an entire year. They're probably not a team you would pick to play like in an ACC tournament, but overall, over a bunch of games, they weren't gonna win a bunch of games the way they play.
Surprises me how many games they've won and how bad they are in the offense on the rebounding. They're the worst rebounding team in the conference, and yet they still are playing decent ball. Clemson played them at Virginia Tech, and like you said, we did not get the crowd out at all. Ended up losing by 15 that game. That was Clemson kind of went on a rut. We'll get there, but that was a big game that caused that. But yeah, they got some people. That Padula kid, right. Is that Padula? Am I saying that right?
Is that the guy who scored 30 on Clemson?
Gosh, he's electric, man. He's talented.
I'm looking Florida State. He was 26, and then Clemson 32, and then 33 against Miami. All 3 games.
And he's talented.
They're on a rough skid here. They lost to Miami and Notre Dame back to back.
Lost to Miami twice, which could still one of those. I mean, Miami's pretty good, but could have still one of those wins.
They're winning right now as we're talking against FSU. 2 points. Very early in the game. Very early in the game. 7 minutes left in the first. Yeah. I'll update you at the end of the episode.
But like, if you were going to – there we go. Let's get the Virginia Tech, Florida State update. That's what people are listening for.
That's what they're here on the Clemson Tiger Wire.
Yeah. Would love to hear about
Awesome. Well, that's where we are so far. We appreciate you joining. We're going to take a quick break right here. We will be right back to wrap up the rest of our rankings. So we'll see you soon. Welcome back to the Clemson Tiger Wire. Next up, I'm dreading to hear this. I got to eat my predictions on this one. I was pretty far off on this, but next up, the schools we continue going through these rankings. We got Wake Forest. I had them at 8, Michael at 5, Anthony at 5, and right now they're sitting at 4th in the conference. Now, Wake Forest, what are the Demon Deacons doing?
How are they swapped to them in Pittsburgh?
Should have. I was wrong.
Would have been a clean swap.
I was wrong on this one for sure.
So I learned this year that NC State and Wake Forest do not like each other. I believe I counted, and there's been a total of 8 technical fouls called in the 2 games that we played them. Beat on the first time, Coach Keats got ejected within the first 5 minutes. Ended up winning that game. There was some scuffling on, so I have learned that NC State and Wake, they do not like each other. But they got a good team. I enjoyed watching them against us. I don't know what their stats are. I haven't really looked at it. It looks like they're top 3 in scoring, field goals, free throws. Yeah, they shot a lot of free throws against us. I remember that. That was something that I thought in the second game that we were going to handle and keep them from shooting free throws, and then we ended up letting them shoot a bunch of free throws again. So
y'all split
I
with
don't
them,
know.
right?
Yes, yeah. One at NC State and then lost at Wake recently.
Has Duke played Wake Forest?
Just did last game
That's right.
and won.
Last night.
Matt Cameron.
That's right.
Which we play him again later this month. So it's really quick turnaround for at Wake this time. So
Clemson hasn't played him yet, and we don't play him until we play him once this year, and it's the last game of the season. We play him at Wake Forest. So hopefully I'm going to try to make it out to that one, but that'll be interesting to go to in the season there. That could be a big game for a tournament.
Well, definitely. Certainly for the ACC tournament, but if you're Wake, you kind of have to, since you lost to Duke the first game, you've got to circle some games on your calendar just to try to fight to get into the tournament, just with all the projections that are out. So they'll have a couple of those circles because they can pick up a win against Duke at home and get a win at Clemson. I think they'd be in.
Their next game is also at Virginia, who's ranked now at 21. Yep. That'd be a big win if they could win there.
For them. Yeah, and I think I bet you they'll beat them.
You think Wake beats Virginia?
Yeah, I think so. I think they'll just outshoot. Especially they shot the ball really bad against Duke. Now, part of that was because of our defense, but I think they'll rebound and shoot really well.
Yes.
So I don't know how the voting and stuff ended last year with like Player of the Year, but I will say a surprise player for me is Hunter Salas. Sorry, he's a baller, and he stepped up. He stepped up when ACC play started. I know he had a couple of games in the preseason.
They're a different team. They're a different team now than when the year started.
Yeah. Salas is. I
he's
like looking at him. He scored 33 against us last game. So
he's one that really went under the radar for me. He's a transfer from Gonzaga. Played at Gonzaga the first 2 years of his career, and now he's been with Wake Forest. Now he's been someone that I really didn't expect him to play well. In Gonzaga, he averaged 4.3 points, then 4.5 points, and now he's averaging 18. It's crazy. I didn't see that happening at all, but he's been huge for him. I
think he averages like 45% from three.
Hold on, I can have it right here.
I think, and he's also I think he's 6'5", with good speed, good athleticism, tough finisher. I think he'll be a pro.
His three is definitely increased. They went from 25% to now plus 40%.
Yeah, that's just insane. If I'm a draft scout, that's a guy I could look at as potentially drafting this year. Yeah. Now it's a weaker draft class, so he's got a better shot of it. But that size, with that shooting ability, with that athleticism, and he's still kind of growing. He's not as young as some of these other kids, but he's a baller. He was obviously Wake's best player when they played Duke last night. Or was it 2 nights ago, I think. But he's crazy. He's one of the stars of the league, I think.
He's playing really well. Big surprise, but yeah.
Watching NC State. I don't know if y'all caught any of the game this past weekend against NC State and Wake, but him and DJ Horn, back and forth. I think they both ended up in the 30s. I think it was 32 and 33. They ended up both scoring. It was a fun game to watch.
Yeah. When he played against Duke, Tyrese Proctor was guarding him primarily, who was a hound on defense. Now he got a little banged up late in the first half, but I've seen Proctor really rein in some excellent guards. He played well against R.J. Davis. I think about last year against Quavion Smith for NC State, locked him up pretty good, and Salas kind of cooked him in the Duke Wake Forest game, and that's not an easy thing to do. I've rarely seen him get beat on defense as much as Salas was beating him. So he's a crazy player.
All right, it just still blows me away. It came from nowhere. It feels like,
for sure.
I guess good. He must have been a good recruit to go to Gonzaga. I mean that.
Oh, for sure.
But, yeah.
Now Wake Forest, they got It's a pretty tough schedule, like we said. Virginia against Duke, against Clemson. They also go to Virginia Tech, which not the best team, but like we talked about, tough environment.
There's some losses there, but some potential big wins as well.
Absolutely, they have they definitely have a chance to earn themselves a spot in the tournament. It's whether or not they'll do it. So
I'd be curious to see how Clemson matches up with them.
Yeah, I'm excited about that game in the season there. I think Clemson, in my opinion, we'll get there in a second, but I think we've locked a spot in the tournament, so we'll be fighting for a better seed, both ACC and NCAA. And I think Wake will be possibly fighting for the same spot, possibly trying to fight for a spot in general. So it'll be a good game for sure. Very important for both squads.
Wake could be in now, and we don't know. We're just judging by projections. Like, if the committee sees how the ACC is and is maybe more gracious than last year, they're probably already in. But I just don't have faith that they'll do that. But they could be in now.
Yeah, I think
they need to work on their, if I remember correctly, and I'm trying to pull it up real quick, it's just being slow, but their rebounding wasn't that good. And I was looking at the stats for Wake, and that's something that might hurt them in the long run, is their rebounding. I think NC State.
They're 10th in the ACC. Their opponents don't rebound that well against them, so that's good. But yeah, 10th in the ACC.
A lot of areas they're kind of middle of the pack. The rest of it,
turnovers
per game, middle.
Scoring, they're 3. Field goals, they're 2. 3-point, they're 2. I mean that alone.
Offense, they're good.
When you a bunch again, they're the highest scoring offense in the ACC.
Yeah,
they score 80. I think close to 80. Before Duke, I think they were averaging just at 80 points a game.
So as of right now, they're second behind Duke by 0.2 points.
For
Duke's
what?
Points per game. Duke is 80 and a half. Wake's 80 and a third.
So we get 80 and a half a game.
That's what
it doesn't feel like that.
Oh, I'm sorry, that's third. Carolina's the most with 80.
Okay, gosh, I was going to say, golly, it doesn't feel like that. What are we at? 70, 79 or something?
Oh, you are 80 and a half.
80, yeah.
Okay. All right. So we get 80.
Yeah. But yeah, Wake's best field goal percentage. Yeah, or close to the second best. It's good team, good offensive team. Moving on. So Wake Forest, we were off on. Y'all were off by 1. I was a little bit.
I think they were Michael's ACC pick, right?
To win the tournament.
Tournament, yes.
Yes. And I'll stick with that. I'll stick with
it. Don't spoil it. We'll get there.
Okay. I mean, I wonder who I'm going to pick.
I wonder who. But no, we'll get there in a second. We'll move on. Next up, we got a team that all of us were pretty low on, and we probably should have been.
We recorded it at a bad time. They just lost to Notre Dame.
Yeah, we got Virginia, who I had at 7. Michael had at 6. Anthony had at 8, and they are right now top 3 in the ACC.
They fooled us, man.
What were we doing to Tony Bennett? What were we doing?
And we had that conversation.
But everybody was saying that too. Everybody was saying that too. It wasn't just us. And also, do any of you think like Virginia is like that great of a team?
No.
They beat us, so they got to be great.
Well, they're unique, but like, are they going to like win 3 tournament games? Like, I could see them easily getting bounced in the first round, if not the second.
What's scary about Virginia is right now they're shooting the 3 ball really well, and they're a good defensive team. Like, but that's the thing. If one of those things goes off in a game, they're hurting. Like,
Virginia's always been like they never really which I mean they did this year a couple, but they never really lose games that they're not supposed to. Like they always beat the lesser good teams, but it seems like they never beat the top tier teams.
Yeah.
They're second to last in rebounding. It's Virginia. I don't have a lot of faith in them, and here's why. Like I said, they're a great defensive team, and they're shooting the 3 really well. When you get into a tournament team, you've got to have something to fall back on. If the 3s don't land, what are you going to do? And when it comes down to just the paint scoring, I could be wrong, but I don't feel like they score a lot in the paint. I don't feel like they will score a lot, like in transition, that kind of stuff, other than on the 3-point line.
So they're a good passing team.
That worries me.
But like they lead the conference in assists, but that's kind of skewed because they have so little possessions in a game compared to everybody else that each one of their like a ton of their baskets come off assists because they're so like focused on half court offense. But I don't know. It surprises me they're this high. I think it's just because they just like don't. It's hard to beat them if you don't have the talent.
Yeah. They also have the least amount of turnovers though per game in the ACC.
But that makes sense too because they have considerably less possessions.
Yeah. I wish I could find a percentage wise how many assists per possession percentage.
That probably exists, but too deep to look up right now.
Turnover percentage.
They lost Pitt today.
Did they? That's right. That's right. I don't know how I feel about that.
Even like against Pitt, they shot the ball 50 times. 50 times against Pitt. Against Florida State, they shot it 52 times. So those are games where there are 50 possessions in the game. So all of their like turnover, unless they have like disastrous games, some teams are getting 20 more possessions than them in like a regular game. But
they don't score a lot either. I think their highest scoring that they've had is 80 in one game against Virginia or Florida State. The rest is like 60s.
Reese
low
Beekman
70s.
is a good player.
No, really good. He's literally leading their team in almost everything.
Yeah, which is wild as like a kind of a big guy. Like plays power forward, I think. Small forward, power forward. He'll be a guy that'll at least get a shot in like the G League. Maybe get a chance to come up and play some games. But yeah.
Well, he's a senior, so he has a COVID year if he wants it. But.
He reminds me of the other dude was it Hunter that played at Virginia a few years ago?
Yep.
What was it? I can't remember his first name. He reminds me a lot of him. They were similar players, like just like kind of stretch. No, not Kyle Guy was a bit different. Kyle Guy and was it Tyson?
Mm-hmm.
They were
Tyson. Or Tyson Jerome or something like that.
They were why they won is because they had two elite 3-point shooters.
I'll be honest, I was a Kyle Guy fan. I wish he was going to go good in the big. Yeah, I thought he was going to do good something in the NBA.
No, dude, no, he was never going to be in.
His highlight was Virginia, but Virginia's doing well. Do we think they finish top 3, top 4 ACC?
See, the thing is, like, who else is there that has a chance to catch them?
Yeah.
Like, it's like Wake's right behind them, right? And they're 8-5 though. So Virginia would have to lose 2, Wake would have to win 2. Do they play each other? They play each other next. We just talked about
that game Saturday.
So if they win that, that'll determine a lot. I don't think they drop in. I think at worst they're 5. At worst.
I think Virginia. I think they split. I think they go 3-3 their last 6.
They got Duke one of those games too.
They got Duke, and then they also play at home against Carolina. They got Georgia Tech, who's proved they can win games. They've got at Boston College, which they should win that game, and then they go at Virginia Tech, like we talked about, hard environment. So
yeah, tough one. I bet you they lose against all the big schools. Like I think Duke and Carolina beat them, and then Clemson plays them.
No, we don't. We already beat them.
Right.
I'm sorry, they already beat us by 1.
They beat you.
Yeah. I think they beat. I think they lose to Wake.
Duke, Carolina. I agree.
Yeah, and then they beat Virginia Tech, Boston College, Georgia Tech.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I'm with you.
But I say if Virginia stays ranked, Georgia Tech beats them.
Okay,
if they're
in the
ranked.
Season,
they have to be ranked.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, that's the only way to
stamp it.
Because Clemson was ranked at the time, right?
Yep.
Whenever
they knocked them out of the rankings, didn't they?
Yeah.
And that was the game that we lost.
Duke, North Carolina. So yeah, it's just destined to happen. If Virginia's still ranked at the end, then they will lose to Georgia Tech.
Yeah. Good point. They went on it. Virginia went on a pretty good win streak there for a while. What was it? 8 in a row?
Who are they playing?
So here's the teams they beat: Virginia Tech, Georgia Tech, NC State, Louisville, and the NC State game was overtime, low scoring, 59-53 in overtime.
Yeah.
Notre Dame,
wild.
At Clemson, Miami, and then Florida State.
There's not bad wins in there.
Mm-mm.
Clemson, Miami, at Florida State.
They also held Miami to 38 points.
NC State. Yeah, that was wild. That might be that's the box score of the year for me in the ACC. For Miami to score 38 is insanity.
So if I remember correctly, they held NC State. We were in the teens at halftime of that game.
Yeah, I think I had 19 at half.
Oh my gosh, dude.
Yeah, it was terrible.
They're like so bad for the sport.
They're not fun to watch.
I like Tony Bennett, but dude, are their games hard to watch
for sure.
Hey, shout out to Furman though for beating them last year in the tournament. The most exciting game of the tournament for me was that game. You remember Clark just chucked it up. He just threw it randomly, and then they hit a 3. That was wild. I felt bad for Clark.
That was when we were watching in the office.
We watched it together. Yeah.
That was something.
Maybe the best game I watched all year in basketball. That was so fun.
All right, so we'll move on. That's about it for Virginia. Yeah. Good defense, not good offense. But next up, Anthony, we'll let you take this one. NC State is next. We had this one right on the money. I had 6th. Anthony had 6th. Michael said 7th. So average 6 1/3, and right now they're in 6th.
Boom.
So
closest you can get.
We had it on the money. What do we think on this one? Anthony, you want to take it away?
Overall, they're about where we expected them. This year, I have been very annoyed watching them. There's been many of games where we're a streaky team. I don't know if y'all have watched us, but we're very streaky. We'll go 5 minutes of no baskets, and then we'll score a couple, and then we'll hit another streak. And I noticed in the games that we've lost, we create a big deficit. And then we'll get hot in the second half, and we'll claw back, get it within 10 to low digits. And then it's just always we're too far away to get caught back up. I mean, we've had some pretty good wins. Like I said, we beat Wake Forest, lost to Virginia Tech. DJ Horn has stepped up tremendously. No, in our previous episode, we were talking about like who's that guy, and I think he stepped up and became that guy. Morcell still hasn't jumped into that role like everybody thought he would be, as being coming back to the school. And there's so many new faces this year. But DJ Horn he's exciting to watch. Like I said, for Wake Forest game, he dropped 31. So almost every ACC game, he's our leading scorer. But I don't think we finish where we're at. I think we lose more. I know we have Clemson coming up on Saturday. I could see us finishing. I don't know. We have Clemson, North Carolina, Duke. We have to go to Pittsburgh, to Florida State, and then Syracuse and Boston College.
Is that your next 3? Is Clemson, North Carolina, Duke?
No, it's Clemson, Syracuse, Boston College.
Oh, I was like, gosh, you played pretty 3 back-to-back
stretch.
Goodness.
Like I said, we did lose to Syracuse back in January, so that'll be. See if we can come back. We're playing them at home this time, so
looking like a better loss.
Should be able to beat Boston College. Not sure about Florida State, North Carolina, or Duke. We do get to have Duke at home, which is nice.
You can go ahead and chalk that up as a win for you guys.
We always play very well at home.
NC State's frustrating for me too, because we talked about it before. I actually root for NC State when they're not playing Duke. My dad's a fan, and so I root for them. But dude, they just have their best games of the year when they play Duke, even when they play them at Cameron. But like, especially on the road.
Shout out to Dennis Smith Jr.
And then they just, that was crazy. That dunk.
Yeah, in the game. Yeah.
Yeah, that was wild. Crazy NBA career. Everybody thought he was going to be so good.
Yeah, he's still in it though.
Yeah, I guess he is, isn't he? But
yeah.
Anyway, but they just play horrible against UNC. Like I remember they absolutely could have won the Carolina game when they played. But they just didn't they not make a 3 until the second half or something? What was it?
So there was some the majority
craziness.
of the beginning of the ACC, once it hit like actual ACC time, is we couldn't. I think we went 2 games without hitting a 3 at home, and then we do the same thing on the road.
Oh.
It's like you should be able to shoot in your building, right?
For a team with Horn, who's a good shooter.
Right. Yeah, and then it's him mainly. Occasionally, you'll get a 3 by Taylor and Morcell, but yeah, it's very our
I'm telling you
3-point
right
game
now,
is
man.
heavily weighed on Horn.
Horn's going for like 35 when they play deep.
That'd be awesome.
My biggest question mark with NC State, and I don't even know if it's as a team as a whole, but you got DJ Burns, who is just a freak of nature. I don't know how he's that good.
This might be
but
an unpopular opinion about him. Is
Uh-oh.
I
Let's hear
like
it.
watching the team better whenever he's not in.
So that's what I was about to say. Is he's
That's crazy.
he's 6'9". He weighs 275, I think. Like
Yeah.
he's a big boy.
Mm.
He's never averaged 5 rebounds in a season.
No.
Yeah.
That's
doesn't
crazy
chase
to me.
rebounds. Look at him.
I know. That's what I'm like. You're that size. Get down low.
He's an
and get
offensive
boards.
juggernaut.
He scores well. I mean, he's averaging 12 points a game this year.
Until they do this double team thing that everybody's been doing recently, and then he doesn't know what to do.
That little turnaround jump shot reminds me of Dirk Nowitzki with a lot more weight.
Just doesn't really have the fadeaway.
More
yet.
power.
Yeah,
he's got good footwork, but it does not translate to rebounding.
And that blows my mind. I don't understand how he's that
weird.
big.
It's weird,
and he hasn't averaged 5 rebounds. And this is 5th season, and the highest he's averaged was last year 4.8. Crazy to me.
We're not.
What's he averaging this year?
4.3.
Man,
we're mediocre in every category you look at, except turnovers, and which I think we talked about that the first time is you expect that from the team that has a bunch of seniors or graduates, because we had a lot of transfers. But I know Clemson fans would like. I don't know if you would like this because he left y'all, but I really enjoy watching Middlebrooks and Diarra on the floor at the same time. They're a good combo. They complement each other very well. Middlebrooks against like when we played Wake. He was like the energy for the team. So he's not a top scorer, but I don't know. DJ Burns this year. It's not the same as it was last year. It's not as fun to watch him when he's on the court.
Yeah. Well, when you have him last year, he was more of a substitute guy. Like, I don't know. Did he start a lot last year or no?
I believe he ended up starting quite a bit. Yeah.
I felt like he didn't to start the year, but I might be off on that.
I think you're right. I don't think he did at the beginning.
But what I'm saying is, like, when last year there was not a lot of responsibility on him. He was in a role where they could just throw him in and he could score, and that was good. But this year,
I don't know if y'all remember. Do you remember a couple of years back when we had Malika Boo and BJ Anya? BJ Anya was not a starter. Yeah, BJ Anya hit a buzzer beater in the NCAA tournament to win the game for us against LSU. And that's more of a role I see
don't remember that game.
DJ Burns playing off the bench.
Yeah. He feels like an off the bench guy to me.
Get you solid minutes, will score you a little bit. But even like his stats, even as much as he plays, it's just not outstanding.
I think if he doesn't have the ball in the low post, he's a non-factor on both sides of the court.
Occasionally hit a mid-range, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, but sure, yeah. But like he's not a guy you just throw in there and it's great for chemistry. He's kind of a vacuum. Like he's not like making all these passes. But
you might as well just let him stay on the offensive side because he's not doing much on defense.
Almost just let him stand on the box the whole game. And then you could just leave him in the whole game because he's not running.
Oh yeah, you give him a 10-foot circle. That's the only thing he's allowed to move the entire game.
Yeah. Oh, but he'll back down flip a bunch and like dunk all over him or something. He'll have a chase down block on Jeremy Roach.
I'm excited to see the matchup on Saturday though against Clemson.
Yeah. Last year we had his number. Last year I don't think we gave up more than 8 a game to him. But different teams for sure.
Who matches up? If DJ's in, it's going to be hard for him to keep up with PJ.
Yeah.
I think Middlebrooks can do a good job on the defensive side. Obviously, might not be able to.
I'd put Shefflin on him.
You put Shefflin on DJ, and I don't think he scored.
Yeah.
I like PJ more running arounds than I do Shefflin.
I don't know if is Gerard going to guard Horn on Saturday.
I bet Chase Hunter will.
Yeah, I was going to say
okay.
you would. I think the Hunter guys are better than Gerard on defensively. No.
There's a lot of people on our team better than Gerard on defense.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I can
That's
see
what I
love
was
him.
thinking.
Gerard, Casey Marcel pairing up. They'll both
Yes.
probably score in the 10s.
Just double him. You double Horn.
And
Double him on the perimeter.
Brad's been running a lot of zone, 3-2 zone, 2-3 zone.
I wouldn't play the zone against him.
Maybe
Maybe a 3-2.
He's pulled
but,
out a 3-2 a couple times, which he did against Virginia, trying to stop that 3. It didn't work, but he did.
Yeah. But that's the zone is if you shoot well, you beat the zone.
Yeah.
Like that's the way to beat the zone is shoot well from 3
Yeah.
and mid range. So I would.
And we don't have that.
Yeah. Well, but Horn, yeah.
Horn. Yeah. Other than him, that's it.
Yeah.
And
So I
if
get
it-
maybe you play zone, but when Horn gets the ball, you're really around him.
What's the one box and one
I
where
think
you
I
put
can
somebody
handle a man to man though. Like maybe I'm.
like why don't
Honestly,
you box and
how
one,
t-
you put somebody on Horn, and then what are we gonna do?
how tall is DJ Horn?
I can tell you.
Is he a
small,
bigger
no?
guard?
He is 6'1".
No,
Smaller.
never mind. Yeah, put Chase Hunter on him.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see Jack Clark. We'll get
Just
to Clemson in a
Horn is
second.
not going to beat Clemson. I think.
Oh yeah.
No.
I mean, depends on what team shows up. If 21 turnover team shows up,
I mean, sure, but like
1 for 18 team shows up.
if Clemson just plays their game, they have a lot more guys who can score.
Yeah,
I think Shefflin can handle Burns.
I do
But,
too.
Yeah.
But
We'll see. You never know. I mean, where are they playing?
at Clemson,
At Clemson.
Okay, that hurts. But yeah,
I'm worried about who we're gonna have put up against PJ, honestly, because when Burns is in, we put in Parker Jr., the freshman, and then whenever they're out, we have Diarra, which is transfer from Baylor. He's good defense. He's not. He did hit 2 threes the other night against Wake, but he's not a 3-point shooter. I don't know. He's a smaller guy. I don't know if he would be able to match up with PJ. Like I said,
excited.
Middlebrooks might be the best
you got it.
matchup for him.
you
I'm
got
excited about seeing Jack Clark. Seeing Jack Clark come back and play against NC State. That should be interesting. And he's playing good ball right now. He's connecting. We'll get to that in a second, but
I'm
that'll be a
excited
fun
because
matchup.
I went to the Georgia Tech game with you, and he didn't get to play
Yeah.
much. So
He was battling that double hernia.
yeah.
But
Got to find a way to get PJ on the perimeter. If you
What
want
are your
to stop him.
thoughts of
I
them?
just
Where they're at? You think
okay,
they'll-
yeah.
y'all
Sorry,
think stays at 6.
Yeah, I think they
Who's
stay.
Tate?
I think they stay around there. I think
I-
maybe a little
yeah.
lower, but not far. Maybe 6.
Depends
to
on
8
what
range.
everybody else does, obviously, but like, I don't see any. I mean, they're exactly where we thought they would.
Yeah.
they would be pretty much. So
I think they're in
I don't
that
see any
middle
reason to
third,
change them.
but
Tournament
should
team?
be good.
No,
Yeah, I don't think so either.
No, I don't
and
think
that's
so.
an issue that I've
Unfortunately.
seen a lot is in Keats' tenure, we don't really have a good strength of schedule either. So I think it's going to come down to like how Clemson was last year. We might be close to the bubble, but we're not going to have good enough wins, non-conference. I mean, we played Tennessee and lost to them, but overall we don't have that many. We don't have a
man,
good
that
strength.
stinks though, because they could have won that game. No, it was close. Wasn't
yeah.
it
I think
close?
y'all lost
Yeah, it
by
was
9,
70,
but it was
79,
closer
yeah.
than that.
Nah, I mean that.
I think it was closer than that.
That would be such
Like
a
that
good
was final,
win.
but
Yeah,
They
it was one
kinda-
of those games that it was like within 4 or something.
yeah,
They've
And
got
the free
opportunity.
Free throws at the game.
I mean, look,
spread it out.
if they go two for 1, Clemson, North Carolina, Duke. Let's say they beat Clemson and Duke. Maybe we're different. Maybe we're talking
Yeah.
different.
But
But that's a tall task.
I've seen on Twitter and a lot of things of Keats against quad ones, and I think he has 3 in his tenure. It's bad.
he's been there
It's
what, 4 or
bad.
5 years?
I think we're at 7 now.
Goodness.
What are they scheduling? That's what I'm thinking. Because I'm like, that had
The same thing that Clemson
Even
was
last
until
year?
this year.
with Smith and Joyner, they didn't get a bunch of quad 1 wins.
No, we are really bad against
That's
quad one.
crazy.
Occasional years,
They had a good team last year.
Godfrey when he was there, we would upset a lot more teams, big
That's
teams.
what he shouldn't have paid all that money. He shouldn't have broke the rules.
Well, now it's legal, so teach their own, right?
But
I was trying to look up this thing real quick before we move on, if I can find it.
Give it to us.
It had to do with our strength of schedule. One of the guys that I follow, he posted.
Is it really bad?
Yeah, it's really bad.
I was going to say, if you didn't get any.
I purposely liked it so I could find it, but
what's NC State in the net? They got to be so low. No?
Yeah, it's got to be.
Let me see. 80th. That's crazy. They're right above App State.
You can move on to your next one, and if I find this, we can go back to it at the end.
St.
That way we're
Bonaventure.
not just sitting here.
That's rough.
Above them.
That's rough.
Yeah,
NC State, they're 79th in Ken Palm.
Ping
So
pong?
right there.
Ken Palm.
Ping pong.
But awesome. Well, we'll move on. If you see that, let us know.
Yeah.
But yeah. So now we're moving into the top 5. This was another one that I've got to eat my words. Michael does not. Anthony might a little bit. We split it just a little, but I had him at 5. Michael had it correct at 8. Anthony had 11. It is the team of Pittsburgh, and we got it right on the money because Anthony and I were equally off. So Michael, you saved us on this one. So appreciate you getting us.
I think as of right, you might like this, but as of right now, I think they've moved up to 6th.
That's right. They're going to be there.
But,
I'm telling you, I got faith in Pitt. I got faith in them to be a middle tier ACC team.
Yeah. You had them at 5. That's higher than middle.
What's your thoughts on the Pittsburgh Panthers?
They beat Duke.
Panthers.
They did beat Duke.
They beat NC State as well.
Maybe the most.
NC State too. So
are they? I was debating on
Clemson.
saying, is it the most annoying Duke loss this year? I don't think it is because we were missing Jeremy Roach and Mark Mitchell, two guys who start every game. And they barely beat us while shooting Henson made 7 threes in a row or something. So it was at Cameron though. It's just one of those games very annoying how much they celebrated that win because we were down so many guys. But yeah, I mean, I think Pitt is pretty much they're about where I saw them. I definitely didn't anticipate them getting a win on Duke, especially after we just destroyed them at Pitt. And then 2 games later, they come to us and beat us with -2 starters. Now, statistically, I don't know if they're a bad shooting team most of the time, field goal percentage wise, and even 3-point percentage wise. They shoot about 34%. But if you look at attempts, if you look at attempts, they shoot by far the most 3-pointers per game. So they're truly living by the 3 and dying by the 3. They've attempted 619 threes on the season. Second is Georgia Tech at 590, and then after that it's below 578 from Notre Dame. So yeah, they just shoot the heck out of the ball and hope it goes in. And some games it does, some games it doesn't.
When I think of Pitt this year, all I think about is when they did win Duke, and what was his name? Blake Henson jumped on the score table right in front of the crowd.
He did.
There was some obscene figures made by some of the students.
There was a lot of it.
The Cameron Crazies weren't too happy about it, but Pitt's on a pretty good run right now. They've won 4 in a row, 6 of the last 7, and their only loss was that loss at Miami by 4 points. Decent little run in the season. See if they can keep it going, which honestly they got a decent schedule to do that. Next game is home against Louisville, then at Wake, Virginia Tech at home, Clemson, Boston College, FSU, NC State. So I definitely think they got a winning record to end the season right there. I think at least 4 of those are wins. Could see 5. I think they're in a decent spot. Blake Henson is just someone he's a fun guy to watch. I really like watching him just because he's always passionate. He's never out there just doing it. He's always got it feels like his what he's feeling is on his sleeve 100% of the time.
He got the energy for sure.
Yeah. but he's averaging almost 18 points a game this game. I think top 5 in scoring.
Yeah. Pitt is, they're interesting. They tick me off when they beat us, but but if there's a team like outside of the teams right now that are expected to make the NCAA tournament, if there's a team that could sneak in, I think it's them and pretty much only them.
I would
agree. Like outside of, I don't want to spoil, I guess, my predictions for who's going to make the tournament, but outside of the teams we think are going to make it, like UNC, Duke, Clemson, and then Virginia, I think is most people's in there, and then I think Wake is right there on the cusp, maybe in, maybe out. If another team's going to get in, I think it's Pitt.
I would agree. I don't.
Florida State?
No, well, I mean, Florida State's overall record is 13-10.
Yeah,
like that's not going to get them in unless they go win the tournament.
And did y'all see what Joe Lenardi said? He said it at the beginning of the Clemson game. He said that when they're coming in to make a determine and if a team gets in the NCAA tournament or not, they don't even look at conference record.
Really?
Conference record is not a factor when it comes to if you make the tournament or not. So that's like
overall.
Well, I'm sure it is to an extent.
No, he said it is not a factor at all. He said it does not play a role. They don't even look at it when it comes down to it.
But they definitely look at who
head-to-head records. Yes, they look at who you play. They look at that. But they don't look and be like, oh, Clemson's 6-6. I don't know how. You know what I mean? No, they look at 16-7.
I mean, that's why losses are. A good example of that is like Clemson is like what 9th in the conference, but they're projected a 6th seed right now.
Yeah.
And like Florida State's like way out, like not even in the picture for the tournament.
Yeah. And they're in 5th.
And that's pretty much as it should be, though. I mean, they're 13-10.
Yeah.
They've just won ACC games. But Pitt's overall record 16-8. A lot more impressive. And picking up a road win at Cameron's a big deal. I don't know how many other road games are really important to get into the tournament. I don't know how many other ones of those they've won, but yeah.
Let's see.
Did Pitt make the tournament last year?
Yep, won some games too. Maybe 1-2. I think they made the Sweet 16.
Their only road games they've won is they won at Duke, they won at NC State, and at Virginia. Those are only big ones.
I mean, a good road wins though.
Yeah, I mean they won at Louisville, at Georgia Tech. Non-conference, they won at West Virginia. I don't know. How's West Virginia been this year?
I think they're on the decline compared to other years.
I say they won by 17 at West Virginia.
They're 8-16.
Okay, so they're not West Virginia a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Maybe it was 2 years ago that they won 2 games in the tournament. Am I crazy on that? I'm trying to look that up now. Did they not make the tournament last year? Yeah, I could be off.
They were top 5 last year.
Last year they finished. Yeah, last year they finished 14-6 in conference. 24.
They were an 11 seed. They were an 11 seed, and
they played the first 4.
Won in the first 4, and then
won the first. Lost the second.
Where they were? Oh yeah, and then they won
Iowa State, and
they lost in the second round. Okay,
yeah.
So they won 2 games in the tournament, but one of them was the first 4 game.
Yeah, so and they won that by 1 point.
Yeah,
their coach Jeff Capel.
First round.
Jeff Capel won ACC Coach of the Year, right last year.
Yeah,
he did.
Yeah. Duke, former Duke assistant.
Yep, Duke player. I actually think he might be on the hot seat soon.
Really?
Not now. But I think before he won Coach of the Year, he was, and then they had a good year last year, and that I think pushed it off for a couple years. But I think I don't think Pitt's going to be happy with middle of the road performances.
How many years has he been there?
Not many. It's got to be 5 or something.
Okay.
I got it pulled up.
Yeah, you got it. I was about to look it up.
Hey, if Keys can hang on, he can hang on.
Yeah.
If Brad Brunell can hang on, he
Kenny
can hang
Payne, Louisville's coach.
on. Jeff Capel's been there 5 years.
Yeah.
Okay.
Since 2018.
2018, okay.
The 2018 season. So 2018-19. Yeah, this is 5th season. But
I'm one of those people that's a full believer, though. You got to give him time to – I know it's different
I agree.
with recruits because you just get transfers and stuff. But typically, if you're recruiting people, you want to have your players. So I think your first couple of seasons is it can't really count because it's somebody else's team.
I think,
Capel's
in my
a
opinion,
motivator.
I think 4 seasons, 4 years is when a good time frame. Because then after 4 seasons, you've had after 5 seasons, you've had a full class go through and graduate. Because you don't have any of that first year, but your second year you got freshmen. So
And
after
it's so
5
hard
seasons, you've had it.
Depends on what your program is and what their standard is for winning. Like,
Yeah.
4 years at a top level school, they're probably not going to give you that many if you stink.
No,
Like,
for sure.
If John
For sure.
Shire had 3 years in a row of Duke finishing 7th in the ACC, he'd be out.
For
But
sure.
like other teams, that would be awesome. So, but I think they'll keep him around, and I think part of me is like they should keep him around because who else are they going to get? And Capel is a great like locker room coach, and he's a great motivator. I don't know as like a tactician how good he is, but some guys are just really good motivators, and they can be good coaches. So I'd keep him around if I were them.
All right, we will move on officially into our top 4 of what we had. We all had Miami next. We had them all 4 of us had it, or all 3 of us had them at 4. And we are way off. We are 5 off. Our second biggest difference. They're at 9th right now. What's our thoughts on Miami? What's going on with the U?
Yeah, it's been interesting with them. They're like another team that really shoots the 3 a bunch. They're still good on offense. When we did this list, I think they were higher in offensive efficiency. They're the 5th ranked offense in the ACC right now, 9th ranked defense. You would think that would be enough to get them higher on this list. And they shoot a good field goal percentage. They shoot a pretty good 3-point percentage. I don't know. It's been interesting watching them play. I think they're just missing a lot of talent that they typically have in years past. They had 2 guards leave them last year, Wong and the who was the ACC Player of the Year, and then the other guy, I can't remember his name. But I don't know. It's weird this year because they're like kind of a big led team with Norchad Omier, which is not really Miami basketball. So I think this is just more of an odd year for them. Coaching wise and personnel wise, they don't have the guards that they typically have, and I don't think they're a culture that is used to playing the way they've been forced to play this year with their roster.
I think Miami played to its hopes against Clemson this year. That was a tough game, our first game in the ACC schedule, and they dropped 95 on us with 3 of their players scoring 23 or more. Norchad Omier 23. Cleveland 23, and then Pat 25. They didn't have any bench points and scored 95 on us. That was a rough game. But since then, I mean, that was their tied for their second highest scoring on the year. Other than that, they really hadn't put that up. I mean, their last 2 games, they've scored 72 and 38.
Yeah. It's like they scored 38 against Virginia and then almost came back and beat Carolina.
They did almost beat Virginia. That's true.
They had a chance to tie it against Carolina. So that shows you the kind of highs and lows, but I don't think they have the star power to get them over the edge like they have in years past.
That last year, Wong, you knew whatever kind of game it was in, if you needed someone to take over, Wong was there.
Yeah. And they have, what's their point? I'm forgetting their point guard's name, but he's a good player.
Or Pack.
Pack. Yeah. Yeah. Is that it?
He scored 25 against us.
Yeah. He's a good player, but I don't think he's the level of star power that they're used to. And it's weird when it's kind of like Syracuse not playing zone. Like it's weird not seeing Miami with like 2 crazy good guards just running up and down the court and playing super fast and things like that. They're just a different roster this year, which I think contributes to them losing close games.
I agree.
Yeah, and that's the difference. I mean, if they pick up 2 more wins,
they're not very deep on their team, their roster.
They're never that deep. They are a play the starters 35 minutes a game type team.
Yeah.
I think they had a combined 19 minutes off the bench combined against Clemson.
Majority of stats, they're top. I mean, towards the top in almost all of it. So
if you looked at the numbers, you'd think they'd be higher.
Yeah.
Just a couple close games and a couple
Yep.
bad games against good teams.
You said they're currently where at in the standings?
Ninth.
I don't think they finish there. I don't know if they get that much higher, but I can see them going to like 8.
They're
7.
10th now, I think.
Yeah, after today.
Of this moment.
But
But that could be because they could be a game behind.
They do have a tough end of the year, though. They got North Carolina, Duke, Clemson still.
Yeah, North Carolina, Duke, Clemson. I mean, same situation as other teams. Like
we play them tomorrow.
Oh yeah.
Valentine's Day.
Is there a scenario where Miami like runs the table and can sneak into the tournament?
I don't know. They're 15-9 right now overall.
I just don't think they're going to run the table though.
No,
like if they won out, the tournament respects Miami. So
yeah.
But
they respect Jim Larinaga.
If I was Larinaga, I would be telling them, if we win, we can get in.
Yeah.
If you win all 3 of those games, they'll feel good.
But all right, we will move on from Miami. Get down to the Nets 3. Here we go. This one was another far one off that we had, which pains me to say, but no, I don't think it's that big of a deal. We got Clemson up next. I had them at 3. Michael had them at 3. Anthony had them at 2. And they're 7th right now. I don't think that 7th truly reflects the team. I think it reflects a hard period of time that we had in them. If it's good with y'all, I'll just start on the commentary on them. I think when we last talked about them, they were 10-1, 11-1, lost 1 game to Memphis, won every other game, beat Alabama at home, beat TCU in Toronto, won a close one against South Carolina, which that game looks really good right now. Won some other good games, blew some people out, won some close ones. And then we just started off ACC poor. We started off the ACC, I think it was 2-6. Got blew out to Miami, lost to North Carolina by 6 or by 10, but it was a close game, even though we only shot 1 for 18 from the 3. Got blew out by Virginia Tech at Virginia Tech. And then since those 3, we just now won 2 games in a row. We literally went win, loss, win, loss, win, loss, win, win. We just had a rough stretch. Couldn't pair wins together. Some of those 3 of those losses, all 3 of those losses that were back to back, they were all within a couple points. Lost to Georgia Tech by 3 in double overtime. Duke to 1 at Duke, which was a great game. And then Virginia 1 point at home. So honestly, I think Clemson's in a good spot. I think if we can finish the season strong, we'll like where we're at. Also, I think a big part of it is we're having players that are getting healthy, coming alive now. We had that Jack Clark where we weren't sure where he was at, and he was off and on. He was out for a while. He started off in, then he went out. He's playing great ball right now. Not really scoring the ball much, but rebounding, defense. He's took his spot back in the starting lineup. Love to see that. I like where we're at. I know 7th hurts. You wish you were in that top 4. You wish you were having a better season, especially with the start of the season we had. But honestly, I don't feel bad about where we're at right now.
Yeah, I don't think you have too much to be horribly disappointed in. I'm trying to put myself in the shoes of, like, if I were a Clemson fan, how would I feel? And my only worry would be they don't have the historical relevance of being a tournament basketball team. So does the tournament look at that and be like, we're going to bump them down a few seeds?
Yeah.
I would be thinking about that, but I don't think there's they have them at a 6 seed right now, which feels about right. I think what's frustrating is, like, a lot of the games for them feel really winnable, and you're maybe fighting for like a 4 seed instead of a 6. But for them to be in this position is a pretty dang good spot. I think they've I don't know why, like, the SEC seems to get all this credit when it's like teams like Clemson with wins over Alabama at home, and then they struggle a little bit in ACC play. Somehow that means the ACC is bad and the SEC is good. I think the SEC is probably the most overrated conference in college basketball this year.
And college football.
Yeah, well, I don't know about that, but but yeah, I wouldn't feel horrible right now. I mean, I do think unless they like lose every game, I think they've locked up a tournament spot. And
I agree.
I mean, they'd have to have. And the thing about Clemson that a lot of the other teams we've talked about doesn't have, very winnable end of the season. I mean, NC State and Wake are your toughest games left, but both of those games, Clemson will be favored against State. Wake would probably be close, but all of the rest of the games, Clemson's probably favored by 5 or more points. I think they've got State, Georgia Tech, Florida State, Pittsburgh, Notre Dame, Syracuse, Wake. Very winnable stretch. They kind of have their toughest games in the meat of the year, and have got a good kind of coasting runway to get into the top 5, which I think they'll probably do. I think they'll go on a little bit of a run, and especially with teams like Miami still having a tough schedule, and other teams ahead of them having a tougher schedule than they do. I'd probably say they'd get into the top 5.
Yeah, I think. Go ahead, Anthony.
I would like to know y'all's thoughts on the Duke game. I know you probably talked about them on your perspective podcasts, but yeah,
it was a win.
It was an interesting end, right?
It was a win.
No matter what you say about that last call, we had chance to put it away. Duke had chance to put it away. So I think it was a foul in that situation. The whistle wouldn't have blew if it was in my mouth.
Situation does not matter.
It does. You watch college basketball, it does.
Well, to them, sometimes it does, but it shouldn't.
We're not talking should or shouldn't. We're talking what history.
No, but I mean, Clemson just managed. Do I say managed or their players just sucked at the end of the game? I don't know. Maybe
3 turnovers in a row.
Maybe it was both.
Gosh.
But they obviously had not practiced those situations a lot because they got horribly outcoached and outplayed in the last 3 minutes of the game. Duke could have really put it away.
Y'all had what?
We missed
3 open threes?
We missed 2 open threes. And Flip missed 2 free throws to, I think, take the lead. Duke was kind of not handed because there were steals and stuff, but we were given a lot more opportunities than how we eventually won. So that was a great game, though. I mean, I thought Clemson played really well. Clemson Flip historically just hasn't played that well against Clemson. I think they match up against him really well because they have. Shefflin's just a big-bodied dude, and Flip, as of right now, is still on the skinnier side. So he hasn't beefed up enough where he's backing down those kind of guys. But he had a rough game, which I think is why it was as close as it was. But that was a great game.
What makes me feel
the better teams?
What makes me feel good about Clemson is that game against Duke at Cameron, we lost by 1 point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
no matter what, we had opportunities to win. We were in the game late. Carolina, we went to Chapel Hill and we won the entire game. We let them back in it, but we never let them take the lead. They tied it up 70-70. Other than that, we had the entire game.
Second win ever, right?
Second win ever. That was a fun game to be at. I can't stand Carolina fans. Luke Jenkins, he's a good friend of ours. He was at the game with us. We were sitting in the media section, and gosh, I cannot stand Carolina fans. Luke is a Carolina fan. He's all right. My dad's a Carolina fan. He's all right. Am I missing anybody else?
What were they saying? Tell us what they were saying.
I can't. This is a family-friendly one, and it was not family-friendly. Gosh, you thought Clemson fans
wine and cheese fans. They only show up when the going's going good.
You thought Clemson fans whined about that call at Duke, that last call? Oh, goodness, everything that happened. But anyway, one there. And then even the first time we played Carolina, we shot 1 for 18, and it was a 4-point game until the final free throw time when they just were taking the lead. They won by 10 because they made free throws at the end when we were fouling. I feel good because we're playing good against the big teams. I think, honestly, it might not make sense. I think tomorrow's game is going to be a big showcase for us. I think Miami crushed us the first time we played them. They're coming back. We play them on ESPN2, national TV. How do we respond? How do we follow up these 2 big wins at Carolina, at Syracuse, which Syracuse only lost 2 games all season at home. So they're not playing the best, but they play good at home. how do we follow that up playing Miami tomorrow? I think that'll be a big game for us. It'll show a lot about where this team's at.
Yeah. But I think their goals at the beginning of the year was to compete in the ACC, which they still can do for a tournament championship, and make the tournament, which I think they're going to do. So, like,
if you're
have they played fully to their roster's capability? I'd probably say no.
Not
but
at all.
Have they played well enough to reach expectations? Yeah.
I think right now Clemson has done two big things that if you're a Clemson Tiger fan, two very big things. Number one, I think we've lost a tournament spot. I don't see 64 other teams better than us. I think we've locked that spot.
No.
Yeah. And then number two, I think we've locked in Brad for another year. If you're a Clemson fan, you've heard the rumors, you've heard that. I think he makes his fourth tournament appearance in his 14th year. So we'll see how that goes in the future.
Enough to keep him around.
And hey, he wins the game.
It's 20-year extension.
Maybe lifetime contract.
But
wins two games.
He made it to the Sweet 16 in 2018, and we signed him for 6 extra years after that.
There you go.
So
get ready for another one.
There we go. All right. Well, we will move on. These Nets too, we were right on the money, pretty close with. I was perfect on the Nets too. Just throwing that out there. Y'all the ones that switched it up
on the top two. We just switched.
So we had Nets up. Michael, I'll let you take this one. We got Duke. I had them at 2. Michael and Anthony both had them at 1. So we had it right. Our average is 1 1/3. They finished third, second right now in the conference. So, Michael, what's your thoughts?
Yeah. So, I mean, as of now, Big Carolina just lost against Syracuse. So, Carolina is still up. They've played one more conference game than us. They played one more game than us overall. I don't think they've had like their off week yet. They're 11-3 in the conference. Duke is 10-3. And obviously, one of those losses for Duke is at Carolina. So we have a chance to take possession if both teams were winning every game for the rest of the year. We play them again. Duke would win the regular season championship if we're able to beat Carolina at Cameron, which I think they have a great potential to. As far as Duke's, just how as the overall season has gone, there are things I could be more optimistic about, but overall, I mean, it's kind of like you sit here and you're 19-5, you're 13-2 home, you struggled on the road a little bit. Conference play, you're 10-3. One of those losses is a loss to Pitt where you were out 2 starters. One of those losses is a bad loss to Georgia Tech in which Tyrese Proctor got hurt in the first 10 minutes of the game. And that was early in the year. And then the other loss is to Carolina. I mean, in my not good losses as far as Pitt and Georgia Tech, but from a how the team has played perspective, the only loss I'm like really the only loss that I think was 100% legitimate to me is the Carolina loss in which they just beat us. But Duke is still a great team. Still, right now, I think we're teetering on the edge of a 4 and a 3 seed. There's a world in which we play good enough to where we could get could end up as a 2 seed in the tournament, which I would for sure not have said after our non-conference schedule didn't go quite as planned. To finish out the year, they've got definitely an interesting schedule. Florida State coming up next Saturday. You never know how they're going to play. Play Miami at Miami. If they hit a bunch of threes, it'll be close. Play Wake at Wake, who I think is going to play with a little more gumption because of the way we just beat them. Then you play Louisville. That's kind of an off bye week. Then you play Virginia. Luckily, that's at Cameron. Virginia historically doesn't play that well at Cameron, and I think we have the talent to beat them. Play at NC State, automatic loss, and then you play, and then you get to play Carolina at Cameron, which I feel good about right now as a Duke fan. Just most years you split those games. Last year we beat them twice. It was a rarity. They beat us twice a few years. But most of the time you split those, so I feel okay saying that I do think Duke is going to win against UNC, barring any injuries at the end of the year. And if we're able to take care of business, there's a real shot we could be regular season champions, depending on how UNC finishes the year. As far as the team, let me see what else I have to say. Most disappointing player so far has probably been Tyrese Proctor. He's had a few rough games, and I think if we want to make it to where we want to make it, which is a chance to win a national title, he's going to have to step up and play better for us. But he is a player who did step up in the tournament last year, and in the game we lost against Tennessee, he led Duke in scoring and was the best player on the floor in that game. So I'm hoping he just has that knack to turn it on when it actually matters. But I feel pretty happy as a Duke fan. There's not a ton I can complain about. Losing 5 games. The non-conference games, it's rough. Like, we got a loss to Arkansas that doesn't look nearly as good as I thought it was. But other than that, have some good quality wins. We were able to pick up a win against Baylor. We lost to Arizona, who is obviously a good team. But I feel okay. Yeah, I think key for Duke is going to be our 3-point shooting, making sure that stays high. And then making sure Flip doesn't get into foul trouble, which he's done better at the past few games. I'm optimistic on Duke, and I think because of the sophomores on this year's team instead of the freshmen, they'll have the somewhat tournament experience and know when it's go time to really turn it on. So I feel okay about Duke.
Anthony, you got any thoughts on them?
Yeah, I was just going back and looking at like the games that you're mentioning. Arizona's still up at
that's a good loss.
Yeah. Baylor, they're still 12th, so that's a pretty good win. I mean,
almost beat Kansas. Would have been. I was really rooting for them to beat Kansas because that win would have looked even better.
I mean, Arkansas and Michigan State, they're
lost to Arkansas but beat Michigan State.
You're right, but they Michigan State was ranked and now they're not.
Yeah.
Arkansas, like you said, they didn't pan out to be.
Nope. Away game, so it doesn't hurt us as much, but still, you'd like to win that one.
I think they definitely could have beat, obviously, Georgia Tech and Pitt. But I think with the predictions from the beginning, I think Duke will end up first overall. North Carolina hasn't looked that great their past couple, and I'm sure we'll get into that. But
I guess it depends on their schedule. I don't know does North Carolina. I guess we'll talk about it here in a minute.
We'll get there just next.
Yeah,
here's my key for Duke. All right, here's the key for Duke basketball.
No, yeah, he is the key.
That's the key right there. Jared McCain. I think Kyle Flip's going to get his points. Tyrese Proctor, like you've talked about, has been up and down this year. I think if Jared McCain keeps playing at the level
Jared's crazy, dude.
He's so good.
I don't know if you guys have had a real chance to you guys you aren't watching as much Duke as I am, obviously. But do you know that over his past 4 games, in 3 of them, he's had 10 plus rebounds as like a 6'1" guard. Like I can't talk enough about how good he is.
He picked a fan up in me based on TikTok. I'm not gonna lie. I follow him over on there.
Shout out to TikTok.
I did unfollow him before the Clemson game, about 10 minutes before tip-off, and then followed him about the next morning. I would have followed him right away, but I was kind of bitter right after that game. But yeah, I'm a fan of him.
Shout out to Jared.
He's so good.
I could go on and on. He has been over the past several games just so good. And it's what's more impressive is that he's playing so well even when his 3-point shots aren't falling. Like against Boston College, he went 1 for 8 from 3, which is he's like a 40% 3-point shooter, not common for him, and he still wound up with 11 points, 11 rebounds or something. The plays that he makes off ball and just even defensively, for being undersized. Yeah. And by the way, I'm still right now projecting that he will be back at Duke next year. I think he's just the kind of guy that just loves being at Duke, and he said it. He loves,
and he's making so much money,
and he
right
makes
now.
NIL money at Duke, and he's got a couple million followers on TikTok. I don't think money is a factor for him. And next year,
Can you imagine him and Cooper Flag? Can you imagine those two together?
Even just the amount of, if he improves at all for next year, man, I mean, what a player he could be in his second year. And that's with the projected number 1 pick in the 2025 NBA draft, Cooper Flag coming in. The idea of Cooper kicking it out to Jared McCain is very exciting as a Duke fan. Extremely exciting.
Yeah,
I really hope he stays, but gosh, he has been so good. And he's shown up for big games too. Like Carolina, UNC, there were huge stretches of the game where Jared McCain was our best player, and you just don't see that on the road from a freshman.
23 and 11.
Yeah, 23 and 11. He's like
at Chapel Hill.
6'1".
Yeah.
And that's against Carolina, who's a good rebounding team, who's got Baycott and Ingram down low. I don't know how he rebounds so well. I've talked about that on the pod a lot. His rebounding is crazy. They said he studied Dennis Rodman's rebounding techniques, where he would watch all of his teammates shoot around and watch how the ball comes off the rim for each person, so he knows what position to be. It's just that to do
That's
that
the
as
next level. That's
to
the
do
next
that
level.
as a 6'1". It's one thing to do that as a guy where rebounding is your role. To do that as a 6'1" guard who shoots 40% from three, the work ethic that's off the charts to focus on rebounding that much. I can't say enough good things about Jared. My Twitter people call it that California yoga mindset does a lot for you for basketball. He got that. I don't know what he's doing. Keep that California yoga mindset up. Solid, man. I'm so excited. I'm excited to even just watch him play every time he plays. And the idea of next year is man, come back. But I feel good.
Yeah, overall, I think Duke's in a great spot now, and I think in the future they're even better.
Yeah. I mean, there's a world where I think next year's Duke team could be better than this year's.
I agree.
Depending on who we get back. If everyone leaves, it could be rough because you'll just have so young of a team. But, I think there's a good chance Mark Mitchell comes back, even though he was projected to leave. Just because he's –
Flipowski?
Yeah, Flip's gone, definitely. Flip basically has already said he's gone.
I say his attitude. You watch him on the court, he doesn't look like he's thrilled to be there. Honestly.
He never looks like he's having a good time. But that was even last year too.
True.
It looks like he's almost annoyed to be playing. He got that Jokic mentality. Hate the game.
I want to go to my horses.
Yeah, hate the game you play.
But all right, well, Duke's good. We're looking there good there. We'll move on to our last ranking, and then we'll finish up with some awards predictions. UNC, I had him 1, Michael 2, Anthony 3, Havertz for 2, finished off at 1. What's y'all's thoughts on UNC?
3. So Anthony had Duke, Clemson, UNC. Okay.
Yeah. I don't think that they will end up in 3. Looking back at it now, I think they're Duke and Carolina is going to be 1-2. Yeah. I think Duke will end up pulling it out. We were talking about their upcoming schedule.
We lose to Virginia. We're 3. I don't know. But,
they got Virginia, Miami, NC State again, and then Duke are their bigger games, and they got Virginia Tech, Notre Dame. I think North Carolina can lose 1 to 2 of those games for sure. Like you said, I personally think that Duke will beat them to end the year. And I think they could drop one the way they've been playing. They just lost to Syracuse tonight. They lost to Georgia Tech, so it's not like they can't lose to a lower level team.
Yeah. If I had to pick, I think they lose to Duke and that's it. But I think they could lose at Virginia. If I was more confident about Virginia fans really showing up in Charlottesville, I might pick Virginia in that one. But I just think Carolina shoots too well. So I think they lose a close game against Duke in just a good rivalry game, and that's it. And it will depend on if Duke drops another game, whether they'll be ACC champs or not, regular season. Which they very well could. Duke has a tough schedule to close out the year. So
the toughest part is North Carolina leads the league in scoring and rebounding, which are 2 big categories to be leading. So
I think my Carolina, or looking at Carolina, when you look at player performances, when you look at the big 4 stats, most people look, you really could have 5, but if you look at the big 4, points, leaders, or points, rebounds, assists, and steals, as far as individual stats, Carolina, I believe, is the only ACC team that has a different player at each of those 4 stats. when it comes to who's leading the team in points, in rebounds, and assists and steals. 4 different players there. I think it shows they're well-rounded. They got R.J. Davis is going to score. Armando Bacot's going to get rebounds. He's also going to score some. Elliot Cadeau, I think his assists are there. If he could pick up some more scoring, that'd be huge for him. I think he's only getting like 8 points a game. And then Harrison Ingram, where did he come from?
Gosh, yeah, he's the big surprise.
He's got steals. He's almost 1.5 steals. He's bumped up scoring recently. Has increased a lot. That Duke game, I think, really sparked it.
He had 7 threes in that game. Five threes.
So he had 8 against Georgia Tech. Since the Duke game, he had 21 against Duke. Clemson had him to 11. Then he had 13, 14. But I mean, not great, but when you pair that with 13, 6, 5, 11 rebounds, that's a really good third option. I actually
think Cadeau has underperformed a little, and he's overperformed.
Yes, I would agree.
I don't put a lot of that on Cadeau because I felt like he was always a passing first point guard, and as a freshman, it's going to be tough to do that as a freshman. And his passing's been good, but just he wasn't that awesome of a scorer in high school, and I didn't expect him to. I thought it was a little preemptive to make him the preseason freshman of the year, but Harrison Ingram has been the surprise for them.
I think a big thing that I think we've kind of talked about it. Carolina's they've lost 3 of their last 5. Georgia Tech, Clemson, and Syracuse. Yeah. I think a big thing that's caused that, though, is I think Cormac Ryan has kind of cooled off. He was played 4 years at Notre Dame, transferred into Carolina this year. And I'll be honest, you could ask me preseason, what's your thoughts on Cormac Ryan? I'd been like, who? But he played really well at the beginning of the season, but as time has gone on, he's kind of cooled off a little bit. He's only shooting 29% from the 3, and I think he started the season close to 40%. Free throw percentage, he's going to hit his shots. But, I think he's cooled off a lot. So not having that other guard that's a really consistent scorer, I think has hurt them recently.
If you would have asked me at the beginning of the year who would be a bigger impact transfer for them, Cormac Ryan or Harrison Ingram, I would have told you Cormac Ryan in a second.
Yeah, and that's just at the beginning of the season it was.
It's been the other way.
Yeah.
Cormac Ryan in some games has been like a borderline role player.
That Clemson game,
19 rebounds against NC State.
Cormac Ryan did?
No, Ingram.
Oh, Ingram, yeah.
Ingram had he had a ton against Duke too.
Yeah.
I got to find that. He had a crazy stat line against Duke.
Yeah, we held Cormac Ryan to 2 points.
21 and 13 against Duke.
Harrison Ingram right now is playing really well. I will say Cormac Ryan did score 18 tonight for Syracuse, but they lost. So take that for what it is. But yeah, Harrison. Yeah.
How do you guys feel about UNC? I'm looking at this through Duke royal blue colored glasses here, so take everything I say with a grain of salt. But I don't know how I love Carolina in the NCAA tournament when they step up in competition and have to play really great teams. I do think it's just interesting to look at what's their non-conference. Did they have a big win in the non-conference?
Let's see.
Arkansas, Tennessee, they lost to UConn and Kentucky and beat Oklahoma. Oklahoma was 7th at the time. That's the highest.
What's Oklahoma now? Are they ranked?
25.
So they're an interesting team for me to watch against really elite opponents. And they beat Duke, obviously, but I almost don't count those games as they were just rivalry games, and you never know who's going to win. But other than that, I think they're good, but I don't know if their peak is as high as some other teams around the country.
I see them. My prediction for UNC is I think they get to the Sweet 16. I think they win the first round, win the round of 32. I think the problem with UNC is that there are 4 big players, right? I feel like, and I could be wrong with this, but R.J. Davis, Armando Bacot, and then how it's been this season, Harrison Ingram, Cormac Ryan. They have to have, for them to have really good success, at least 3 of them have got to have a great game.
Performances.
If 2 of them are off, they're going to be off, and I think that's what you see this recent stretch of 5 games. They've had a couple of those games where Cormac Ryan was off, and then Harrison Ingram didn't score a lot, and then tonight RJ Davis. What did he do against Syracuse? Did he have a lot?
19.
19. So he had 19. He did decent, but I think they've got to have exactly. He's averaging 21.
I mean, what was his shooting splits? I wonder.
Let's see.
So tonight he shot 36% from the 3, had 3 assists, 1 turnover, 41 from the field.
Okay. But I wonder, Anyway, sometimes with him, he just takes a lot of shots.
Yeah.
Which is why he scores so much.
He also gets a lot of free throws. He's a good free throw shooter. But anyway, I think that's what worries me about Carolina is I think you've got to have all 4 really do well, and they haven't done that recently.
They have, I would say, 2.5 guys that can get you 20 in a game. I think Ingram can, but not as reliably. But if you look at other teams, even Clemson might have more than that. Clemson, I think PJ Hall, Joe Girard, I think even Shefflin's probably tough to get you 20. But there's some other teams I think with some talent that
Chase Hunter could score 20.
That might he's done it. So it's maybe what I'm trying to say is their floor is very high, but is their ceiling a Final Four team? I just don't know. Maybe I'm being a hater.
No,
I could be being a hater, but man, I would have no faith in them going up in against a Purdue or a UConn or even other really high ranked teams.
I mean, you saw them against UConn. They lost already.
And they lost to Villanova who's another I don't know where they are now. I think they were ranked back then maybe, but I don't know. I could be being a hater though.
See, Villanova was not ranked, and they're still currently not ranked. They have
a
13-11 record now.
Yeah.
See, it's what's their peak of the season? Duke, that their best win? Well,
maybe Tennessee.
Yeah,
Duke and
we
Tennessee.
Were 9.
Yeah.
Duke and
Tennessee was 10, and now they're 5.
So that now, I guess that Tennessee win looks, but Tennessee's overrated. There's a
SEC bias.
Better from last year.
Well, I mean, I of course I'm bitter, but there just are. It falls along with the SEC is overrated, and they've lost 6 or 7 games now.
I think Tennessee. You look. We'll get there. We'll get to the tournament breakdown in a second. So that's our rankings. Any final thoughts on UNC?
I think they finished second.
Okay.
Definitely a tournament team.
If you want an honest prediction from me right now, I do think they win the regular season because I think Duke, even if Duke, I think will beat them at the end of the year, but they have an easier path to going undefeated until then than Duke does. I hope Duke doesn't. I mean, I hope Duke wins every game, but there are some games on Duke's schedule that is going to be tough. I think Wake, just after how the last game went, is going to be tough. At NC State's tough. At Miami could come out and shoot 60% from 3, and it's you lose. So, I think they'll win the regular season.
So, all right, we got a couple more things to end it, but these should be pretty quick. Appreciate y'all staying with us. But real quick to end it, I want to ask this, and I didn't ask either of you this question beforehand, so on the spot, I'll answer first. An easy question. What so far this season has been the most fun to watch? Not necessarily the best performance. For instance, I'll answer first. If I'm thinking best performance, you obviously think that Clemson UNC game. I mean, we won at Chapel Hill, held the lead the whole time. But I think most fun games, so my favorite game that I've watched this year, except for the ending, was that Clemson Duke game. That game was just, we were down by a lot, and it might have been the crowd. We were watching it with a bunch of students on a trip in a big, nice cabin. Michael and I were there. We had a bunch of people, but that game was so fun to watch. Duke took the lead. We took the lead back. It was back and forth. That was a really fun game to watch. So for me, my favorite game that I've watched this season, even though we lost, was that Clemson Duke game. What's been y'all's favorite? It don't have to be your team. It can be a different team if it's not yours.
I don't, like I said, I was telling y'all, and I kept talking about it. NC State and Wade game was by far one of. I know we lost. It's very disappointing, but that watching Horn go back and forth, like it was a great game. They both scored 30 points. I really enjoyed that one. That was my favorite game. But I'm sure there's games that I've missed also.
I think mine was Georgia Tech Clemson, the double OT.
That was a great game.
Just thinking, I don't necessarily. Duke hasn't been in like have we been other than Clemson? You're right. The Clemson game was great, but I think that one wasn't as fun for me because it felt like maybe it would have been different for me as a Duke fan anyway. But it felt like Georgia Tech and Clemson were like Georgia Tech was just playing at like such a higher level. Like it felt like both teams were playing like at least decently well. Whereas I think Duke, or I don't know if Duke and Clemson both had their best games. Certainly like Flip was frustrated the whole game. I like the games where it's close and it feels like both teams are hitting shots. And like remember, I think Shefflin had like a really good game against Georgia Tech. Like Shefflin was grabbing like all those rebounds.
I think he had like 11 offensive boards.
Yeah. There was a period where it's like Georgia Tech's like Clemson's best offense was just to shoot a three and like let Shefflin get the rebound.
Which honestly, that's not the first time this season that it's been like that.
And then on the other side, Georgia Tech, the guards were just like hitting these insane shots like down that was fun to me. And it's like double overtime win.
Georgia Tech had George 20 points, and they had a bench player, Sturdeep. I don't even know, had 18 points. Yeah, but that game, PJ Hall went off in that. We had PJ Hall had 31 points. Ian Shefflin had 20 and 15.
That's what I'm talking about. I like the games where it's like the stars play well and it's really close.
I'll be honest, I think if we would have won that game, I might be there with you, but it ticks me off that we won every single break and we still lost that game.
Yeah, I can see I wouldn't pick that one as a fan.
We also shot 14% from the 3-point line.
Yeah, the three wasn't good. But it was fun watching Clemson shoot and Shefflin just grabbing every rebound. Because you remember like Georgia Tech had like 2 of their big men foul out. So it was essentially like guards versus big men at the end of the game.
But awesome. I appreciate y'all answering that. Sorry to throw that on you. I just thought that'd be a fun,
easy.
So let's go through some awards. We're gonna, as you can see, this chart up here is our last awards. So if you want to keep it the same, you can. I'm going to change up some of these, and we'll keep track of all this. But let's start with this. We're also going to add another award that we're going to throw in there. An award I'm not going to ask you about, most improved player of the year, should go to Ian Shefflin. Just throwing that out there.
Let's. I have no clue who that would go to.
It should be Ian Shefflin. Last year he had 4 rebounds. This year he's almost 10, 5 points, almost 10. Crazy good. But anyway, we'll start freshman of the year.
Hunter Salas went from 4 points to like 25. Yeah. All right.
We'll start. We'll start off freshman of the year. So we'll start with you, Anthony. Last year you predicted Carlton Carrington from Pitt. Are you keeping with that, or are you changing it up?
I am keeping with that. He's still balling out for Pitt, averaging 13, 5, and 4. I don't know if anybody else has got those numbers. So I'm going to stick with Carrington.
You getting it ready? I know who John's picking.
Sorry.
Cut you off.
Keep going, bud. My bad. I didn't mean to play that. I opened my phone and it was already up.
But that's my thoughts. Right, I think Carrington is the best freshman right now.
He's good. He's playing good. Michael, you picked Jared McCain. You keeping changing?
Yeah, I am sticking with it. I actually think freshman of the year in the ACC is the conference where it's the most highly contested. But I think McCain's numbers, like his numbers suffer from the beginning of the year where he was not struggling. He was just getting used to college basketball. But I think as of late, he's had some really good numbers in most of his games. And I think that's with like the past 3 or 4 games, his 3-point shot hasn't really been there as much. If that picks up at all, he'll start getting into the 20s. And I think he has got a few 20-point games left in him. And I think because it's Duke and we're going to be contending for a number 1 spot, I think they'll give it to him. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sticking with it.
What are you gonna do?
I can barely hear it. Is what's funny.
He wants to be mine.
There we
but
go.
it doesn't make right, 'cause he doesn't really like things.
There it is. Song of the year for Duke.
I think he wins it. He's playing just so well. I agree with you. I'm changing mine. Elliot Cadeau, I agree with y'all. He hasn't played well. I think Jared McCain wins it as well.
No.
So.
I think Cadeau's been all right, but it's hard to be like, oh, you average a bunch of assists. Freshman of the year.
Yeah.
When there are all these other players.
I agree. We'll throw in a different one. We didn't pick this at the beginning of the season, but I'm going to show this now. Transfer of the year. Who's been the biggest transfer coming in to a new program? It could have been within the ACC, could have been without the ACC, but biggest transfer this year. I will start off. I believe my vote is Hunter Salas. We talked about him. Went from Gonzaga. He did improve that. He did improve his scoring dramatically. Went from 4.5 for 2 years in a row with Gonzaga to now he is dominating, scoring a bunch of points for Wake. I think Hunter Salas has got that for sure. He's only a junior. I think he could be drafted. I think my guess is that he comes back. I think he's going to come back and play again. But he's just, I think he's been dramatic. His impact to the Wake Forest team has been crazy huge. So he's my pick for transfer of the year.
Good.
Okay. Yeah, I'll second that. I actually think he should leave at the end of the year. I think this is a weaker draft class than next year's. So I think he's got to. It depends on what the scouts say, but I think he's done enough to, if not get drafted, at least comfortably make a G League team. And the NBA actually this year revised the rules on how G League players can get signed. There are more spots available now for them to have a 2-way contract where they can go play a few games in the NBA and then come back down. So I think he should leave. And I think he's definitely been, for me, it's probably between him and Harrison Ingram. And Harrison Ingram mainly was because he's on the number 1 team in the ACC right now.
Where did he come from?
Where did he come from?
I didn't mean to put you on. I'll look it up. You keep talking. I'll look it up.
Okay, yeah. But yeah, I think Salas is just a baller. His numbers, his numbers are good, and I don't even know if his numbers are match when you watch him play how good he is. He's obviously Wake's best player, and he's leading an inferior team to overachieving in a lot of people's eyes. So I think it's him.
Harrison Ingram came from Stanford, another ACC school now.
Good point. Yeah, I wouldn't have thought about that, which is crazy.
Anthony, what's your pick? Transfer of the year.
I'm going to be biased on this one, and I'm going to go with DJ Horn. Because if we did not have DJ Horn, I think we would be at probably close to the bottom of the ACC. I think he keeps us in a lot of games. You look for player of the year, or not player of the year. You're the best players on each team.
Yeah.
And he by far has stepped up. He was averaging 12 points at Arizona State. And now he's up. I don't even remember where he was he's 8th in the ACC, averaging 16. For me, he's made our year for what it is. But Salas with Wake is not a bad choice either.
I can see that argument.
Those two,
100%.
Those two going head-to-head was, like I said, my game of the year. So
I can see that argument because if you took – you might be about to say the same thing, but I think if you took Horn off of State, they would be worse than if you took Salas away from Wake.
I was going to say that, exactly what I was going to say.
I just think Salas is better a little bit, but Wake is a better – Wake would be better off without Salas than State without Horn. State without Horn, I think, would really be struggling. So I see that argument.
100%.
It comes down to kind of this argument always of MVP, player of the year.
Is it
given to the best player or exactly
or best transfer?
Exactly.
That's
And I
a-
think with the
that would be-
argument, whatever you go there decides what it gives there. So yeah, I definitely see that. That's a good
Is
pick.
is that an award now?
I don't know. I was looking up predictions
Start
for
making that an
awards,
award. Best
and transfer of the year was a prediction. They actually,
Maybe it's an
they-
award. I don't know. Maybe
yeah.
I missed that.
but
That should be.
All right.
It should be an award.
Player of the year. Anthony will keep you up first if that works. So you had Armando Bacot with UNC. You think that stays or you think it switches?
I think this goes back to what y'all were just saying. I don't know how the voting will go. Is it most valuable on the team, and that's how you win Player of the Year? If so, then I changed mine, and I'm changing it to PJ Hall. I think he is obviously the glue for Clemson this year. He is second in scoring behind RJ Davis, and RJ's still averaging 20. But I mean, PJ's right there he's 19.9 right now. He holds that team together. I don't know who would fill his spot if you didn't have him. So yeah, Player of the Year. I'm changing my pick. Bacot has went down on his rebounds some because he was averaging a double-double. I remember that. Or sorry, not rebounds, his scoring. He's still averaging 10 rebounds a game. But I don't know. I'm giving it to PJ.
Michael, who you got? You said it was RJ. You stay in there?
Sticking with RJ. Yep.
Okay.
I'm going to stick with him. I just think you're the leader of the number one team right now, and his scoring numbers are big, and
For sure.
they love picking guys from the big programs. So I'm going to stick with my picks on this one.
I said PJ Hall, and I'm going to stick there. I think, Anthony, your argument is exactly what I was going to say. It's you take PJ Hall off that team. We have Ian Shefflin getting boards, but honestly, I don't think he gets as much because PJ Hall gets a lot of attention. And then you got Joe Girard shooting it, which, again, I think
spurts that it's been not that great for him.
Exactly. But I will say Joe Girard, I think, is a guy that if he's the only guy on the team, I honestly think his scoring might go up. Because you watch him.
More.
Yeah, he shoots a lot more. You played at Syracuse, he knew he was the guy and he shot it. Clemson, he can be pretty reserved. I mean, he shot against Syracuse. I think he only ended up with 17 points, but he only shot the ball very few. But yeah, I think PJ Hall, he's someone that you watch his game when the games matter, he does what he needs. I think if we can get him off the 3-point line a little bit more, his increase.
He's not coming off the 3-point line.
He recently did the Syracuse game. He only shot 2, missed them both. Carolina, he shot 10. Game before that, 1 for 6, 0 for 6.
He knows what he has to do to get in the league.
No, yeah, and he's got to hit threes.
Yeah.
He started off this year ACC play. In the ACC at home, he started 2 for 26 from the 3-point line.
Yeah.
I mean, he's done better since then. But anyway, I think we get him off. That gets up a little bit. So, yeah, I still think he wins, yes.
I think those are valid arguments, by the way. I do think he might be a little more valuable than RJ Davis is. Let me ask you, who's just better? Who's better, RJ Davis or PJ Hall? Who's a better player?
Like you think like NBA or?
No, just like right now, who is better as a player?
What do you determine that, though?
So hard.
Scoring,
well, I mean, because most people say player of the year. Is
Yeah.
it better or most valuable? It sounds like you guys are kind of erring towards most valuable. For sure.
I think they give it to better.
Your arguments are like, which makes sense. Like Clemson is not that. I don't think that great without PJ Hall.
Yeah.
Carolina can still win games with Bacot. It'd be tough for Clemson. So I think that's valid. But just better player, I think is sometimes where they
usually give it to better player, and I think still PJ Hall is up there. I think RJ Davis here's this might not make sense, but I'm going to try to make it make sense.
Mm-hmm.
You look at RJ Davis's game. In my opinion, he's got one level to it. He's a scorer. You know what I mean? RJ Davis. He's a scorer. PJ Hall. He's got multiple levels. He can dish the ball well. He's really good at defense. He's rebounding. He could get that up a little bit, but he's done good at rebounding and he can score. So I think all around, PJ Hall is better. But if you look, and I'm not saying that comparing like, oh yeah, he's a better rebounder, so he's better. Obviously, different styles. But I think as a complete game in their position, PJ Hall's better. Just because RJ Davis is a smaller guard. the next level against bigger guards, he's not going to be able to stop them on defense.
Yeah.
I mean, you put him up against a 6'4" point guard. It's not going to be the prettiest. So I would say PJ Hall's better in my opinion.
I think RJ is maybe a little bit better of a college player. PJ's a better pro. But I wonder if either of them will be relevant in pro.
Yeah.
I definitely don't think RJ will be. And we saw Joel Berry light it up at UNC, and he at the ACC commentator desk right now. and
they have very similar games.
Yeah. But PJ has a chance at NBA.
Yeah.
He's just, but defensively, he's not. I don't think he'll hold up that great in the league.
Yeah.
I think he's got to make threes, which is is why I think he's shooting them. I hope he does well. I like him as a player.
He's a great guy too. You look at that Carolina
a little bit of
game.
a tangent, but
that works. But anyway, all right, we'll move on. Coach of the Year. What's this award going to? So Anthony, you had Jim Larrañaga from Miami. Are you sticking there? Or are you switching it?
I am going to change. And it's hard because
do not stay. I promise he's not getting it.
They've disappointed me, Miami. I don't think they finished as bad as they are currently, but they definitely have disappointed me. I was kind of hoping that they would do better. It's a tough one, honestly. Come back to me. Y'all go
It's
ahead.
a little tough, honestly.
All right. Michael, you said Brad Brownell.
Brad's
sticking there?
No,
he's not winning it.
He's not. Clemson needed to have about 2 or 3 less losses for him to be coach of the year. I think if they have 2 less losses, that he's in consideration. But no, I think it's going to Leonard Hamilton. I think they're going to give it to Florida State. Florida State's coach. I think part of that is because the ACC is, I think, solely going to value conference record, and they're 7-5, and there were a team that was projected to finish like third to last, 13th, 14th, 13th, and I think who your other options is it Hubert Davis? I just think it's tough to give coach of the year to teams like Duke and Carolina who always have so much talent, and they historically have not done that. I don't think Coach K ever won ACC Coach of the Year, which is something.
That's wild.
But
greatest coach of all time.
Yeah, but they just don't. They give it to. Typically, this award goes to who overachieved expectations the most, and I think right now it's got to be Florida State. So, now, do I think they finish that high? But the problem is, it's like, who else do you give it to? If it's not Florida State, it's like, you're not going to give it to Duke. I don't think they'll give it to Carolina. Miami, no. Jeff Capel, no. Like, who else do you give it to? Tony Bennett, just for being Tony Bennett? Like, I don't know. But I'll go Leonard Hamilton. I think they finish out the year decently strong enough to finish top 10, and that's good enough to win him Coach of the Year when they were projected in the bottom 3.
So mine is very similar to kind of what you're saying, but the opposite. I agree. I think ACC usually gives it to like what the surprise team. What team had the most surprising of a season? They get Coach of the Year. Look at Pitt last year. No one thought they'd go to 5th, and they finished 14-6. But this year, what you just said, there's no one to give it to. I don't think Florida State finishes as well as they are right now. Yeah. They're 7-5 in conference.
They just crash and burn.
I don't think they finish there. I think they got a tougher schedule. I think they lose some. So I came down to Tony Bennett and Hubert Davis because I feel like those are the only ones you can give it to. And I landed on Hubert Davis only because Carolina had a rough year last year. Last year projected preseason number 1 and then missed the tournament altogether. This year have a chance at a 2 or 3 seed. I think they end up with a 3 seed, but they could end up higher. I think big change, big jump. They might end up with a 2. I don't see them getting a 1 seed. But yeah, I think the jump that they made between the seasons, and the only reason I'm not going Virginia is because last year they finished the season at number 14, 25-8, 15-5. They had a good season last year. So it's no surprise they're keeping it the same. You know what I mean? So I would go Hubert Davis.
Okay, I had to look up these names because I'm not 100% sure what their names were.
Yep.
I think it needs to go to Damian Stoudemire with Georgia Tech. Just because of his wins,
wow.
right? I'm just kidding. I do not think he gets it.
I was worried right there.
I actually do like him as a coach.
I do too. I like when he sat down the other day and he was just like,
Yep.
We got our butts
I know
kicked.
what you're talking about.
I'm actually going to go. I'm changing mine still.
Okay.
I'm going to go with Steve Forbes with Wake Forest.
Huh. Okay. There is an interesting pick.
Yeah.
That might be a good pick.
Yeah, I think they've
I could see him winning.
So far they have went above expectations. I know you have them in the ACC tournament that you had picked originally, but overall as a community for the ACC, I believe that they've went above the standard that they were picked. So yeah, I'm going with Wake Forest, Steve Forbes.
I think it's a good pick. Here's what I think about that. I think if they make the tournament, he wins, or he wins the award. If they don't make the tournament, he doesn't. And we'll get to it in a second if I think they'll make the tournament. But yeah, good pick. All right, moving on. ACC champions. Just we'll roll through this one, and then we'll end with who gets in the tournament. No, just kidding. Regular season champs first.
Regular season.
Anthony, Anthony, you had Duke.
I'm sticking with Duke.
You sticking with Duke?
Yep. I think like I said, I think North Carolina can lose one. I think Duke will beat North Carolina on the last game of the year. So yeah, I'm sticking with Duke.
Michael, you sticking with Duke?
My heart tells me, but my head, I am going to switch to UNC. I think Carolina will win every game of the season until Duke, and I think Duke hopefully gets them at Cameron. I just think I really hope, and Duke. It's not that they can't afford to lose another game; they can, but it would be really hard for Duke to go undefeated to end the year against the schedule that they have, and not because they can't. They'll be favored in all the games, but just to win all of them would just be tough. So I think they'll drop a game, and then Carolina won't. And even when they beat Carolina, they'll still have a game on us.
Yeah, I go with UNC. I had Clemson. I think that's impossible unless Clemson and Duke and UNC lose out and Clemson wins out. But no, I think UNC wins it. I agree. I think they win out. I will say that Syracuse lost today. I picked them before that game. That surprised me, but I still agree. I think they win out until Duke. That'll be a tough game. I don't think Duke allows them to do what they just did, but I think it'll be a close game.
I think if Carolina drops another game, I might change my pick to Duke.
Yeah.
But I don't think they will.
Yeah, I think Duke drops one, but I don't think they drop two. And I think UNC only loses to Duke throughout here, maybe. I got UNC winning.
I'm opposite of that. I think Duke can win out, I think they can, and then I think North Carolina drops two.
Gotcha. But
that'd be great.
We all agree Duke, Carolina 1-2.
Yeah.
Look, there's a world where Clemson gets to, or Virginia gets two.
Yeah, they're only a game back.
And we play Virginia, so and only once. It's not twice. So whoever wins that is going to have the tie break if it's close. So
Duke could easily
finish 3.
That 4 spot's tight though. The 4th one is there's 5 teams
that could shift a lot.
Clemson's only 1 game out of the 4 spot right now.
That could shift a ton. Yeah.
So I think the 4 spot's up to grabs, but I think it finishes Duke or UNC, Duke, Virginia 1-2-3. ACC champions. Who's going to win the tournament? Anthony, you had Miami. You sticking with the Hurricanes?
No, I'm not going to stick. I was hyped up on them going into ACC play. I'm not sticking with them. I'm going to go off on a limb on this one. I'm going to take Virginia.
Okay.
Virginia to win it with their defense. They're, again, not that great of scoring, but I want to be different, so I'm going to pick Virginia.
Michael, you had Wake Forest. Surprise pick of the last talk. Are you sticking with them?
Doesn't look so silly now, does it? No, Wake is winning the ACC tournament. Right. I still think they can win. Look, I mean, we talked about it before. There's a level here where I'm just predicting that they're going to get hot, which is really hard to predict. I just think the way they play is just indicative of winning a tournament style setting. I think they'll win the ACC tournament and win a game in the tournament, in the NCAA tournament at least. I'll say they.
You're skipping around.
Well, I'm sorry. Well, I said they're going to win the tournament, so they're going to make it. That's an automatic bid.
Yeah, that is true.
Let's say I'll just throw out that they beat Duke in the championship.
Okay. So my ACC champs, I have Duke winning it. I'm gonna switch that up. I think Duke makes the championship, and I think Clemson beats them, and we get our first ACC championship ever.
I don't want to win the title. I don't want the tournament. I don't want it.
I would take the time. I would take it. We've never won it. Founding member never won it. I think honestly, Duke obviously I think has a really good chance at it, but I think Clemson, we're getting hot at the right time. It seems like we're finding our feet, and we've got an experienced team. We've got a team that can make a push. I think we win it. I think this is the year we win ACC. So
hot take alert: getting hot at the right time is way overrated, but we can move on.
You can lose anything, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I think we look better now than we did those first 3 games in ACC.
I'm convinced you want to look bad at the end of the year. Just the way it happens, man. You want to suck your last game. That's what's going to happen. Duke is going to suck against Wake in the ACC title game, and that'll get us right.
Yep, gotta be humbled before the tournament.
Exactly.
For your teams, these are 3 very different teams, history-wise. Would you rather your team win the ACC championship and then lose second round in the tournament, or lose in the ACC tournament and then make it to the Final Four of the NCAA tournament?
Final Four, definitely.
At this point in NC State's program,
dude, NC State going to the Final Four right now would be insane.
It would for sure.
you gotta go for that.
But I would enjoy once in my lifetime of them winning something, and if that's an ACC championship, I'll take it.
Maybe that's different.
Yeah. I'm going. I have to go ACC championship because we've never done it.
I've seen. I watched Duke win a title in person last year, so it's like
No one has ever seen Clemson win the ACC championship, so I would pick that.
No, I even think for you guys though, the Final Four. Imagine Clemson getting to a Final Four, dude.
Yeah, and then
four tournament wins. You hang a banner for a Final Four.
We hang a banner for an NIT win. What are you talking about? Not a championship, an NIT win.
Florida State has a banner for #1 ranking COVID year. They have finished. Oh, it's number 4. So finished year ranked 4, 2020 is the actual banner.
All right. We're gonna end it with this. I think this one will be a good one. We've talked about it a little bit already, but ACC kind of gets some hate when it comes to tournament play, when it comes to getting in the tournament. But if you look at stats, we've got the most wins in the last 10 years in the tournament, and we don't have the most teams that's made it in. So with that being said, knowing the bias, knowing all that, who gets in the tournament, how many teams from the ACC, and who doesn't make it?
I think a good number. And I seen Larinaga thing, and I think not Larinaga. What's the bracketology guy?
Lenardi, yeah, Joe Lenardi.
Yeah. He's had 3, I think, for the ACC for the majority of the year.
I think it's 4 now.
Okay.
Or is it? No, it might still be 3. Honestly,
I think
I don't know. He has us right there with the mid majors.
3,
yeah. I definitely think we get more than that in. Unless they just ultimately hate the ACC. I think North Carolina, Duke, Virginia, I think Wake, Clemson, those 5, and then I think you might be able to squeeze in a Florida State or Pitt.
So you think 6?
Florida State is not getting in.
All right, so Anthony says 6. Michael, how many are you saying?
13 and 10. They got to win the ACC.
Or
Clemson,
Pitt.
Clemson did not get in last year, 23 and 11.
Yeah,
they did not. But NC State did at 23 and 11.
Yep.
Yeah, that's right.
And with the worst record in conference.
Probably worst strength of the schedule as well.
Never mind.
I don't know. Last year might have been Clemson didn't have a great schedule last year, but
Yeah, we had a terrible off.
so I think for me, I'm gonna. This is how I feel. I think most likely scenario is 4, and it's UNC, Duke, Virginia, Clemson. I'll go ahead and be bold and say I think Wake will get in, and we'll have 5. I think it'll be UNC.
Should be bold if they're going to win the tournament.
Yeah. Well, yeah. That's what I'm
First
saying.
ever Power 5 champion that doesn't make the tournament.
Yeah.
they declined their invitation.
Shout out to Florida State.
My bad. Yeah, maybe Florida State can hang a banner for that.
All your friends to their football.
I think it'll be Oh yeah, I know I got it. I think it'll be UNC gets in at a 2 or a 1. I think Duke will get in at a 3 or a 4. I think Clemson will be around that 6th spot. I think Virginia will be around maybe that 6th spot as well, and I think Wake will get in as like an at-large, or they'll get in because of the automatic bye because of the tournament in my mind. but I think 5 teams. That's 5. And honestly, guys, like I think that's pushing it. Like I think 4 is maybe more realistic. I'm secretly just hoping that the committee is like, we've undersold the ACC in previous years and they've overperformed in the tournament. Let's give them 1 extra team. It's crazy, man. The Big 12 gets 9, 10 teams in, and we can't get 5. Like it's wild.
So I'm gonna go very similar to Michael, but I'm gonna go on the other side. I think 3 teams right now, or 2 teams are a lock, UNC and Duke. Clemson is all but a lock. I think Clemson gets in. I think Virginia is one of the last teams that get in. I think right now they're ranked 21st, but I think they barely squeak by because I honestly think they're going to drop 3 of their next 6 games. I think they're going to lose at home to Wake Forest. They're going to lose at home to Carolina, and they'll lose at Cameron against Duke. I think that Georgia Tech game is going to be close. That Virginia Tech game is going to be close. I think they win comfortably against Boston College. But I think they're not going to end the season strong, and they just lost today to Pittsburgh. So I think they're going to end the season really bad, but I think they barely sneak in. So I'm going to say 4, but it wouldn't surprise me if only 3 get in. I don't think Wake gets in. I said Wake was a bubble team. I think they should. I think we should easily have 5 teams in.
But you think they won't?
I think we're more likely to have 3 than 5.
Just optimistic. I wish they liked the ACC more.
3 than 5.
Yeah,
that's maybe a good question.
I think it's more likely Virginia doesn't get in than Wake gets in.
Okay. Yeah, I would probably err the other way, which is why my prediction is where it is. But you make good points.
Right. That's the night. We appreciate it. There it is, guys. I appreciate it. I know it's a late night for us. Appreciate y'all hopping on.
Always fun.
If y'all aren't following Tiger Wire fans, show some love. I don't know why you'd follow a Duke podcast, but if you want
don't have to follow, it's all right.
Go ahead and give it. It's good. I listen to it. It's a good show. He does great. And then also follow Anthony. When you on Live PD or on patrol? You're not on Live PD.
On patrol. Yes.
When you on patrol again?
Probably give me like
now.
4 weeks. Yeah. About 4 weeks.
So, be looking out in March for on patrol. The Sergeant. Corporal.
Ooh.
I was close. Corporal Anthony.
I thought that was a new show where that, like the Masked Singer, where they get police officers to sing in masks.
Yep.
And you get to guess where they're from.
There it is.
Doesn't that sound fun?
You know what his first song would be?
Should have signed up.
His first song.
Yeah, tell me. Yeah.
I listen to that more than I should. But all right, that's going to do it. We appreciate y'all. Thanks so much for joining. Hey, Tiger Wire fans, thanks so much for being here for another episode. Make sure you're following us on those social media platforms. Thanks for hanging out with us. We can't wait to see you on the next week's episode. Until then, keep that Tiger pride alive and roaring. And as always, go Tigers.
Roar.
A lot.